Hello and welcome to the deepest dive from MinnMax. This is the best, most thorough discussion about Final Fantasy VII Remake on the internet. I'm Ben Hansen, but I'm not alone. Thank God. I'm joined by Kyle Hilliard.
Hello.
Grant Bullimer.
Hey.
Jeff Marchiafava.
Hey.
And best friend Ronnie.
Roche.
Okay, look, relax. I don't know if I don't know if I can break it to you, man, but we're covering chapters 10 through 14 in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and not a hint of Roche as far as I can see, at least.
Are we done with Roche?
Very
at this
disappointing.
point?
That's it. He won't come back until part 3 of the remake, I do believe. But what this is we're breaking Final Fantasy VII Remake up into chunks, and this is the chunk dedicated to only chapters 10 through 14. So it's like part 3 of 4 for our overall Game Club discussion here. If you want to join the Game Club discussion, you can support MinnMax at any tier on patreon.com/MinnMax2Ns. And then you can leave a comment on the grand finale, I guess, for next week's episode. Or if you're looking at this on YouTube and you say, that's way too long of a video, that's absurd, I'm horrified, and you prefer to listen to this as a podcast, you can support MinnMax at the $5 tier. That unlocks the exclusive podcast feed, which has our bonus podcast, MinnFacts, every single week. Also early access to the MinnMax show and a bunch of other fun bonus stuff in there. All right, everybody. Chapters 10 through 14. How's everybody doing? Is everybody dodging spoilers still? Are we doing fine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doing good.
I'm confused. I feel like this is the most confusing chunk of chapters with the ghosts and everything. But,
the ghost really threw you for a loop compared to...
Well, like Marlene was a ghost for a little while. I still don't understand.
Okay. There's a lot.
Triangle between her and Tifa and Barrett, but that's not related to this chapter necessarily.
Yeah, we got a lot we got to go through here. A lot of great comments from the community and stuff. I am very excited to finish this sucker off next week and just finally rip off that Band-Aid and see what the internet has to say about Final Fantasy VII, because I have it muted everywhere. I keep telling YouTube, despite constantly looking up Stamp's theme on YouTube and listening to it, I'm not actually interested in Final Fantasy VII content. Please don't give me that content. This was a long section. Ronnie, you seem the most stressed about time in general. Just for the width of this section, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, no, it was. I got more stressed, and just kind of, I think, you know, a lot of times when I do these game clubs, I do them in a way where, I don't know, it feels a lot less stressful. And I think maybe it's because if I don't quite make it, then I just don't have to, listen to the episode for a couple of days.
Oh, when you're a listener, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm a listener. Yeah. And this is a little bit different. So it just, I think that last chapter 14, was starting to kind of get to me about what are we doing? Like we decided that we're going to go after Aerith, but at the same time, we're going to talk to the population that we've met so far and just ask them like, hey, you got any odd jobs out there for us, or... You just need a couple hundred gil.
I know you have some flowers around your house, Elmira, but do you want me to plant like 16 more before we go save your daughter, or like anything? Just give me anything, honestly.
We could crossbreed.
We could, in a lab coat. Does he need anything? I don't know.
Honestly, I'm just gonna strap this pedometer to my feet and just kind of run in circles around your house real quick. I hope that's cool, because
it'll take me about 3 hours. But like, what do you think Earth's doing right now? Like, just that. I think that felt very. Like, one thing that I struggle with in games is when they tell you, like, hey, something needs to happen quickly.
Yeah.
Or, you need to rescue somebody. But then there's this, like, but just, like, literally check every nook and cranny of every space that you've been in, and so it's just kind of like, I don't know.
Well, it's I like that they
spent a good 15 minutes trying to get a summon on the way to Barrett, being like, we got to check on Marlene. We have to see what's wrong with Marlene. Make sure she's okay. Right. And I'm like, well, do you mind if we just talk to Chadley for like half an hour real quick? I'm just
let me put these goggles on. Oh my god, that's so cool.
Whoa, she was huge. Yeah, I like the somber tone and then running by Chadley. Old Sadly over there. It's just like, all right, I just got a couple quick things. It's at least they try and couch it, I feel like, in this section, interesting way of Tifa has some line, which I appreciate at least, of them trying to explain why you should do these side quests of like, well, everybody needs some help down here right now. And, you see a lot of people helping each other. And so we should try and help as many people as we can. I'd argue with some side quest in Chapter 14 that overall, maybe goes a little bit too far. But
Look, people need to dance, Hanson. I don't think you understand that.
Well, I mean, that man needed to unleash his moves. Grant, outside of the low points of Chapter 14, what did you think about this entire chunk here?
I guess I didn't consider 14 to be a low point for me.
Really?
No, I think 10 and 11 honestly felt like the most fillery stuff for me versus 14.
I'm trying to get an overall sense. This is definitely the coolest I've been on this game. Still, a godsend and a miracle that we're playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. But I had this weird reminder as I was playing this, where every time I would kind of be annoyed by a side quest or just annoyed by an objective or this little beat, I had to remind myself, oh no, these are still my best friends on the screen. Like it's still Final Fantasy VII. I need to remind myself to be excited about that. And I know that the next time I play this game, I'm going to skip as much of that side content as possible. And I feel like it makes it feel so much better overall. But I'm with you, Grant. Even in the main line, 10, 11, it's really slowing down a bit. Not to the point that I think it's a bad game, but it's more of just like, okay.
No, right. For me, this chunk felt like 10 and 11 were a slice of bread. 13 and 14 were like bread with herbs on it, and then 12 was like salami and cheese and everything good right in the middle of that bread.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so I know what you're in for.
Really like 12.
Nice. Adam Dominguez writes in on the Patreon post, and he says, question to Jeff, and I guess also Kyle here. Question to the rookies. How annoying are us original Final Fantasy VII fans? Are we getting in the way? Since we all want newcomers to love this game, can you feel the power you have to crush our spirits right now?
No, at least for me, I think it's been great. And I think part of that is just you guys have been very respectful of us and not spoiling things, but I appreciate the kind of energy and enthusiasm you have to kind of see it from our perspective. And I enjoy learning about all this stuff that, I can't get from just playing it through the first time.
Right.
And knowing this song was originally here and stuff like that, that's all interesting to me. So
yeah. And Kyle, you did a little historical research to find out how much you did play from the original Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, it turns out I've played all of this.
You hack.
Now, hang on. You played all of just like this portion of the game, or the whole game?
I loaded up. I mean, maybe you can correct my terminology here, Hanson, but like I charged up my Vita and loaded the save, and it loaded with Cloud like outside of the city.
He left Midgar.
I left Midgar. So I have played all this, but I just don't have. I have very few specific memories of many of the moments that I've seen in this game.
I mean, when was that though that you played through it?
That probably would have been like 2013 or 14.
Okay.
Something like that. Yeah, so not super long ago. But yeah, I put 7 hours into that game.
I guess if you're just flying through it and I guess you're probably listening to podcasts, I guess it just didn't sink in too much. But I am craving, and I'm not begging you to do this, Jeffem and Kyle, but I would love for you to go back and play through Midgar after we finish the remake, just to play this effed up weird demake of the game that you just played. I think it'd be fascinating. I think you'd be really struck, because even I keep going back to that archive, because Ronnie and Grant and I played through Midgar on a stream on our YouTube channel, and I keep going back to that archive just to be like, was this section in there? How did they phrase this? And the more I look at it, the more I'm shocked how many of those elements they really carry through to the remake over and over and over again. But hey, here's the thing. It's my favorite game to play. It's the deepest dives, most common comments. What do you think? Number one comment.
Those lizard jerks can go jump off a bridge.
The Draco and lizard guys.
Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, actually. Which somebody wrote in about on the last episode, and I read it because I wasn't quite sure what they were talking about with the jump move. But yeah, okay, the Sahagin or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
The fire is a godsend for them, but they're a real pain in the ass. We know them well from the Dirge of Cerberus.
People write about how much time Cloud spent sitting next to people and propping them up by their waist?
No, not a single person.
He did that so much. I feel like when the thing was crashing down, he helped Wedge, he helped Biggs, he helped the other woman whose name I've forgotten.
You know what? You can go ahead and hang up. If you're going to disrespect Jesse Kyle, this is
Jesse,
horrifying.
But it went, but it's so much time just kneeling next to someone and holding them up and getting their final words, which I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but that really surprised me. I didn't expect that to happen.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. We're going to try and go a little more chronological this time, but noted and respected. Any other guests for the most frequently discussed thing in the comments? The thing people wanted. Oh,
are the Turks number 1?
Turks are nowhere near number 1. Turks are maybe number 7 or somewhere on that list.
Interesting.
The ancients?
No. Think
The
about
pull-up game.
Nope. People said this is the most satisfying thing in the game. Everybody said this is a cream dream thrill of a lifetime moment in the remake.
No, that's just you.
No, people.
I know
say
that term.
People say that. I swear to God, in terms of unifying comments, number 1 comment was how satisfying it was as Barrett to shoot the boxes when you play as him.
Oh, wow.
Everybody loved shooting those boxes. I was amazed.
That is a testament to just like this being the deepest dive, that like small of a detail.
Yes.
Which again, I totally agree. That was so satisfying to do that. Like,
Yeah.
and the fact that he actually like, you didn't have to like aim it yourself. That he just kind of like, I know what I'm supposed to do here. Like,
yeah, to the point that when you're Cloud then going back through that area, it's like, well, how am I supposed to get this? This is driving me nuts that those are up there.
Yeah, you can get like 2 or 3 if you swipe directly under them, but
Yeah, Cloud's useless.
Okay,
Maybe
so
it's because I've played the original so many times, but there is a certain section that was by far more satisfying to me just because of the story standpoint, but we'll get to it, I'm sure.
But,
oh, right. Yeah, that is not even on my top 10 radar, but yeah, for the community, like that's great.
But that's definitely, yes, chapter 12 and the kind of emotional heights there. A lot of people wrote in about it as well, but they're a little more mixed, pros and cons. Now, if you're watching the video version of this, you'll notice that occasionally Ronnie is using a camera from 1912, and sometimes he's using one from 1984. It's a very fun transition, but no one's here to judge.
Yeah, well, it's vintage. I thought it would be cool to just kind of try it out. So
It's really sweet.
Here I am.
But anyways, I was amazed that we had one person kind of mention the Sephiroth scene, and that was it. Like, they mentioned something adjacent to the Sephiroth scene. I was like, wow. It's fun to see what people comment about and what they don't comment about, and what lands here. All right, let's walk through it. Here we go. Chapter 10, the sewers. Finally, we get to play through some sewers in a video game. Nicholas Freitas says, the most important question from the original stands in the remake. Who did you wake up first in the sewers?
I love that that's the first question. I love that. And it's, oh my gosh. I mean, that gets me every time.
And?
I guess that's the thing. Like, that's the moment where you have to choose. You
Right.
got to do it.
Yeah.
I guess I'm an Aerith boy.
Oh, could have figured. Tifa
I
by
like
a mile.
Tifa.
Anybody else?
yeah, Tifa, obviously.
Tifa.
We're childhood friends.
Yeah, Ronnie.
I'm gonna.
Hang on. Didn't you say Tifa was your favorite character in the game and you're still just kissing Aerith ass?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, I'm curious to see where it leads you. So
all right.
Connor.
I don't know why. It's just for whatever reason. I got a soft spot for Aerith. Aerith. She just seems like kind of the lonely girl. I don't know.
Oh, and Tifa isn't lonely? Just cleaning glasses in a bar, trying to teach Marlene the ways of the world while Barrett's off shooting at boxes?
She's like a community treasure. You walk around and everybody's like, "I love you, Tifa."
That's true. Aerith, they're like, boo! We'll take the angel of the slums over you, you hack.
I hate these flowers.
They're stepping on her flowers. Get out of here. We like the dirt, eh? Anyways, Connor McCracken Flesher. Connor, if that's your actual last name, I'm in love with you. Connor McCracken Flesher says, since I died in the Abzu fight, I got to see what it looks like when you wake Aerith first versus when you wake Tifa first. If you wake Aerith, she takes it pretty well, jumping straight to, we need to save Sector 7, before Tifa wakes up and says, damn it, that bastard. Meanwhile, if you wake Tifa first, she questions Cloud's relationship with Aerith, asking how she and Cloud met, and making suspicious comments that there's something more to it than Cloud is letting on. And Eric Merrill says, it was a great scene waking up Tifa or Aerith, but my favorite moment in the game, Eric says, and I love it too, is when the monster shows up right after that and all Cloud has to say is, good to go? And the girls are like, yeah. And it's just like immediately time to kick ass.
That's cool. Yeah.
Very fun. I had a weird thought going through the sewers and a little bit of chapter 11, the haunted chapter. Haunted chapter. Is I felt like the writing really took a dip. And I had moments of like, this feels standard JRPG. And I guess I'm saying that as a negative, even though I love a lot of JRPGs, but I thought the writing in this game was on a higher tier. And then there are a lot of chunks throughout this section overall, and then I think specifically like chapter 10, where it's just like, it's not as smart or as emotionally insightful as things were hitting me earlier in the game. Am I not?
Sure. No, but I'd like to hear, like, is there a specific example at which, like, you felt like they were trying to hit for a specific, emotion and you just felt like it fell flat? Or are you just talking about, like, generally the banter is just not as impressive or interesting?
I think that's what it is. And there are definitely like highlights. There are moments that really stand out. Like Yarrow says, Aerith and Tifa hitting it off so quickly was heartwarming. Seeing Tifa doubt herself because of Don Corneo saying that all those people would die, and then Aerith cheering her back up by asking her what she would do whenever they complete their mission was sweet. Then the incredible shift from being emotional to funny with Tifa saying, Cloud can carry our things when we go shopping. And Aerith replying that he can be our pack chocobo. It's very good.
There was this like fun moment where I kind of thought like, well, Aerith and Tifa just both like only had eyes for Cloud until Aerith and Tifa met each other. And then at that point, it just seemed like they love each other. It kind of seems like
they weren't that into Cloud. They were both just lonely in their lives and like, oh, thank God, somebody I can talk to. Because imagine if Cloud is your only lifeline of emotional contact and support. And meanwhile, he's like, peanut butter baby over there. It's like you want a little more feedback overall.
Fred, I like that they really do seem to become fast friends. Like it's fun to kind of watch that,
Yeah.
I think there's also not really on the topic of writing, but just to go chronological, I think it's around this time Aerith has the line where she says, "The future isn't set in stone."
Yes, Bob Beal wrote about it, and he says, does this hint at the theory from the last Deepest Dive episode that the ghostly figures are trying to keep the original game's timeline happening? And then Dennis Tan also says, Aerith definitely knows something about future events. Look at her face when Tifa and Wedge talk about preventing the plate from falling between chapters 10 and 12, and she knows that it's going to happen. Same goes for her comments to Cloud in the shared scene in chapter 14. It seems like she is uncomfortably in the loop on what's going on.
It's possible that I don't know, like the way that they're hinting about that now is just through those like subtle facial features and just kind of those subtle hints. But I'm not sure. Like, do you think that's a new thing? Like, is that something that you could apply to the original game as well?
Because she's always yes, because she's an ancient, which I guess we can say now because it's in this chunk that she's more in the know, she's more connected to the planet and therefore the events.
What's going on?
Yeah, I think that is in the original game to a fair extent, but there's certainly moments in this section where it really pops and stands out a little bit more, I think.
Absolutely. Like they're bringing it more to the forefront, it seems like, and which is very cool, I think, because it's very mysterious on what she does know and what she doesn't know, and like just what that could mean. So that's I think it's exciting.
Fred DeNovo. Oh, sorry, Grant.
The ghost theory thing has me more confused now.
Yes.
Just because it seemed like everything was being ushered into place, but there's been some deviance now too, and I don't know what to make of it.
Yes, we'll definitely get into that. It is confusing because I was like, yes, checks the box. It turns out Ronnie and the community is right, and then, oh, wait a minute.
Well, a couple boxes unchecked. It was weird.
Yeah. Fred DeNovo writes in and says, look, I can handle mini games, but come on, this water pump game? Oof! I'm glad they make it easier after each failure, or I wouldn't have made it out of chapter 10. Anyone else have a lot of trouble with that? Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, that was dumb.
Yeah. I think.
Hang on,
we can move on.
I'll just open a support ticket for Square Enix. Let them know that was dumb. Yeah, I was like, I saw it at first. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I played enough Shadow Hearts. This little judgment ring here. I can nail this. And then by the end, it was just whiffing it every single time. I was like, okay, what are we doing here? But still,
they made you do it 3 times, and by the end, it was just going like obscenely fast, and then so you just kind of like had to wait for the little red mark to expand, and you're like,
yeah. Did you see the cute little meme on the internet that was in that room, like before Aerith and Tifa were like, "We'll take care of it. We'll run off." By the way, it's weird just to have those little segments where you're playing as Aerith. It's still bizarre, but I think it's kind of fun.
Are they like trying to give you an out of body experience or something like that? Like,
I think they are. Literally, like in the last section when it was kind of Cloud being the butt of the joke of him like, ooh, boy, oh, that HJ, and he's like kind of like walking around like a maniac. I think like they can't animate that when you're controlling him. So like that was necessary. But then this is just kind of, I guess, to help show that they have a relationship away from Cloud. But anyways, there was that meme on the internet where they recreated the like looking at the girl while you're standing with your girlfriend thing. And it was like Cloud looking at Aerith instead of Tifa in that room. Anyone see that hot pic?
I saw it.
Sorry, Ben.
No, we all
Really
stayed
good
off the
answer.
internet.
Oh, smart.
Yeah.
Evan Plumley says, the way the group stumbles over the very short pontoon bridge in the sewers had me cracking up. They treated the thing like a rope bridge in Indiana Jones. After all that pipe sliding and rusty rooftop walking action, I thought balancing was not a major problem. Maybe the fear of falling into sewage is greater than plunging to their deaths.
I kind of feel like maybe it was like Cloud and Tifa being like, okay, Aerith, this is really tough. Whoa.
Yeah.
Just so she wouldn't feel stupid.
Is that the goal? Maybe. Yeah. I like that.
I
It
don't
definitely was like a janky looking section. It was like outside of maybe some other aspects. Like when they raised the water and the bridge was like I was just in shock by how crappy that looks in one of the best looking games I've ever played in my life. But like I understand water's tough and physics are tough, but it's a weird vibe from that thing.
Watch out, rafts!
No! Joe Halaska says, in a realistic-looking game, the part where you raise the water right after they're crossing the gate and 3 conveniently placed floating platforms out of the rising to form a bridge was unrealistic. Like, why are they there right at that moment? There goes all the credibility in this game that has been based fully in reality. All right, Joe, come on, buddy.
Fair enough.
It is weird to me, though, that the sewer section, I believe, was a preview event. Like, the press got to play some of this stuff.
Forward?
What's that?
Yeah, and that's
Really
the part
putting
you
their
choose to
best foot
showcase.
forward?
That's maybe they stopped right after the Abzu fight or
I
something
mean, they're
like
really
that.
proud of it because they send you back down there later
Yeah.
to like pretty much go through there
They
again.
love the environments. Donnie points out that when Cloud almost fell with the bridge and was saved by Tifa and Aerith, he said, sorry about that. I don't know if they meant this, but I took it as him still struggling with accepting help from others. He's gotten past the I don't need anyone phase, but still feels a bit of remorse when others have to jump to his aid.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think I had that same sort of feeling or thought that it's just I thought it was weird that he apologized about it, and both Tifa and Aerith I think kind of took it in stride of just like don't worry about it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all need help sometimes.
Yeah.
Plus Ultra says, so far, Abzu is the only boss that I found truly frustrating, and of course, it's the only boss that you have to fight twice. He cancels out so many attacks, jumps to the walls, has a cutscene right when I activate my limit break. In part 2, it puts in a limitless supply of add-on enemies and even more environmental hazards. Basically, everything I found frustrating all gathered together. How did Abzu treat everybody?
I was mostly surprised by his name.
Because of the video game?
He actually didn't give me that much trouble. Like I've certainly had moments in that game that have been tough. But
Yeah.
he wasn't one of them for whatever reason. I don't know why.
I linked Fire Elemental on Cloud for their part 2. So in operator mode, the little ads I think were 1 or 2 shots.
Oh my god.
They made it super easy.
I actually for that last or for the second fight I completely ignored the ads. They just seem to kind of run around for the most part and generally just kind of leave me alone. But I felt like the fight was digestible, both the first and second one. But yeah, I mean it does get to that really crappy thing when you do a limit break and then it's just like, oh, we got to do a cutscene here. Like they got to figure that out. That sucks.
Yeah, and the same thing. Like I didn't have too many problems with those fights either, but I can totally understand every time that happens to me where you set up a limit break and then the creature just walks like 3 feet further away and then you're just whiffing in air is super frustrating.
I know. And it's like I've now gravitated so much more to moves that will reliably hit a little bit more. Like I've been playing those instances like, oh god, where's the one where it's like it's one of the later ones that Cloud learns where it's like 3 Mako things that fly out, but like that misses all the time. And it just drives me
Infinity's
insane.
Edge or whatever.
Well, that one also is
no.
surprisingly tricky to hit, but it's like
Yeah, I've given up on that one too because it uses both of your bars and it's such a long windup that's so many enemies. And even when I try and line it up where okay, an enemy just moved to this location. So you would think he'd be rooted there for at least 2 seconds that it takes for him to do that attack, but I end up missing so many times that it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
I do focus thrust or something, which doesn't do as much damage, but at least he's going to close the gap if there is
or
one.
still like the triple slash is still old reliable, like he'll really teleport around the map for that one. But I mean, I think that move in particular, Infinite Edge, I mean, it's designed for when they're staggered. That's when it does like bonus damage as well. But I've been using it all the time.
That's what I've resorted to at this point, is just only saving limit breaks for staggered enemies.
Yeah.
Really?
Like, not as fun, but it's like if you just hang onto them and wait for staggering, like you're guaranteed to get a hit, which is worth the wait,
This game has made me change the way that I play Final Fantasy, mostly just because of timing issues. I find myself using magic more than I ever have in any RPG ever, because it's so much more reliable to use ATB for magic than it is for something that's going to miss.
That's
Unless
really
you're
interesting.
using ice on a fast character.
Yeah.
What's that?
What is going on? The ice on the fast character. I always feel like, am I just missing the number,
I gotcha.
or is it actually not hitting them?
Totally not hitting them.
It is not hitting them. You can, and you as a character, if a monster actually uses Blizzard on you, I mean, you have a good chunk of time to just dodge out of the way, and it doesn't hit.
It's bizarre. I mean, it's the weakest element by a mile then at that point.
For sure.
Yeah, it does work for enemies that are slower. Like I know that those crab thingies in the sewers.
Please,
were weak
crab
to Blizzard.
people.
Crab people.
Yeah.
They were weak to Blizzard, and they can't move like very quickly. So you could one shot them with just like Blizzara.
Right. Right. Andrew George says, these sections are when the combat really started to click for me. Having more combat and skill options really helps, and getting the hang of quickly switching to a character to perform a new ability feels great. I just wish there was an ability to change materia mid-fight, like we talked about last time. He suggests like maybe use an ATB to allow access to change that character's setup. A lot of the boss fights in this section can really screw you over if you have the wrong element equipped in an elemental weapon link, or don't have the ability to cast a spell.
I mean, it's not a great solution, but at least one fight I did it. When you start a fight, if you hit start, there's like a retry battle option.
I've done that.
And it does put you like right outside of the fight so you can change your stuff. But it's like, to be able to do it mid-fight would be way better.
Yeah, that's just screaming for a different way of doing things, right? I mean, even the idea of just like having a primary and a secondary weapon equipped that you could switch between and have different materia slotted for each weapon. So like one you have more fire-based, one you have more ice-based, or whatever. You could kind of figure out different systems with all of your party members to figure out like, well, if something is resistant to this, but this is effective, at least I know that Tifa has this one covered or something like that. It's a little messy.
Yeah, Charles Davis gets to it here. He says, I love optimizing builds with materia, but oh my god, I wish there was a system in place to save materia loadouts.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I have so many of those instances too in this game where, I was like, okay, got the new weapon, let's go through the whole grind, which I still like, of like learning the ability, so I'll equip that weapon. Oh, I guess I lost some materia. I'm not sure which ones I actually had equipped. And then there's that weird thing where it's like some materials are like grayed out and still have like the initial of the character on there. It's like, okay, so that just means that it was equipped before.
No, I think sometimes if a character has it equipped in one of their weapons, even if you switch weapons, if the materia is still in that weapon, it will say that it's equipped to them.
Gotcha.
That's correct, yep.
Which is annoying. I wish once you switched weapons, it would just flush everything out so that you know what's in there or what's not.
I do agree. Like, it would be nice if I am changing weapons, that even if there is material left over, that would just disequip at that point in time. But
yeah. Also, I was horrified. I did it. I got the abilities with both weapons, but I was horrified in this section to use melee Barrett. Like, every time I switched to Barrett, I was like, blah! I was like, oh, yuck, I forgot that I have this thing equipped.
Well, there's two also, right?
Yeah. I mean, I went through it and just, like, spammed the ability, like, just go. Let's just get this sucker over with.
Totally, yeah.
I was in the research lab at that point, and it damn near killed me, so I just went back to Big Bertha and called it a day.
Yeah.
Oh, Big Bertha.
Oh, Bertha for life.
Bertha for life. Bertha for life.
Yeah, it made me laugh like a couple times.
Did you say you're a birther for life? That's concerning.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I liked it when even he had like the melee weapon equipped. They still treated it like it was a gun in cutscenes. Like there's some scene where it's like the classic, "Hey, we're looking for some avalanche member that has a gun for an arm," and like, oh, everybody looks at Barrett. Meanwhile, he's got like a hammer for his arm, whatever the hell it's doing. Yeah,
Can opener.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I think I was wearing the lobster claw when I went and found Marlene, and so there's all these like scenes of him being like, "Oh, honey, I missed you," and it's like he's got a freaking lobster claw on his arm.
Did he pick her up? Did he pick her up by the claw too, just for fun?
Yeah, he dangled her by the clothes on her back. I love you so much. I promise I'm real good to you. Bye.
You're safe? Okay, I will see you in 3 months.
Joe Juba had a classic question here from Game Informer
Joe
fame. Joe Juba just has the classic question. Barrett's a bad dad, right?
Yes and no.
It's a
feel
tough
he's
call.
not, honestly, speaking as a father.
Yeah, it's speaking as a father. I mean,
Speaking as a fathered.
it was wasn't that like called out in the original Final Fantasy VII? I think Elmira even says like, "You're not a good parent," and he's like, "Yeah, I know."
He's aware of his faults. I mean, it's extreme what he does, but when he is with her, he loves her so much that what are you gonna do?
Well, he's fighting
Not
for
be
a
a
cause.
terrorist?
Oh, come on. You're asking a lot.
Yeah, let the planet die. Come on, Jeffem. Kyle, what's your creepy dad verdict? Good dad, bad dad?
I think he's a good dad. I think he really cares. I genuinely like when the scene where after everything collapses and he's like, just tell me that she's fine. He's like, I won't be mad. And he's like, I'm going to be mad anyway. Like,
Yeah.
I really genuinely get a sense that he really cares.
Well, of course he cares.
And like
but...
honestly, like once he finds out she's okay, like, and it goes back to his mission. Like I don't know. I think he's a good dad. Honestly.
Now I'm going to leave you with this stranger and go off to possibly die and leave you an orphan.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
I mean, this might surprise you, but as a parent, you leave your child with a lot of strangers. I left my child with a stranger all day, often.
To go on a deadly mission.
Yeah. To go
where
to
you're probably
going to
die.
I hope they're not strangers. But anyways,
but Dr. Big says, I've been thinking a lot about the toll this journey will have.
Wait. Just one second.
This is dad stuff.
Back up. Oh, is it?
Yeah. Dr. Big says, I've been thinking a lot about the toll this journey will have on Marlene. One of the last things we hear her tell Barrett is, you'll come back, right? And it broke my heart because the audience knows that it might be a little while. It might be months, years. I mean, it's a long time.
Here's the thing that I just kind of wanted to rope back to is, I mean, he goes on a mission to sort of save the plate, right? He's not the one to tell Aerith or be in any sort of position like, hey, I got to go do something. Please, this thing might happen. Make sure that my daughter is safe. He never has that conversation, it seems, with anybody in Sector 7. So I would call that a glaring oversight in his fatherhood.
Well, wait, but isn't it Tifa who? I mean, he's in the middle of combat, right? But Tifa is the one who has that.
Well, at some point he has to
right?
leave the house or the bar to go to fight and to prevent Sector 7 plane from falling. I think at that point he'd be like, pick up Marlene, put her in this sector, and
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I agree. He's a monster.
They hadn't met Aerith's mom yet, so
what a hoot she is. Nonstop laugh right. So Andrew Vala.
Favorite character, honestly.
Andrew Vala wrote in and get us back on track here. He says, hey, shortly after the Abzu fight, you find a rest area in the sewers, complete with a table and chair, racks of cleaning supplies, a bench, and vending machine with a music player. I like to imagine there's an underappreciated Shinra maintenance worker out there painstakingly dragging a vending machine through the sewers so he can chill out amongst the monsters and feces while grooving to some tunes.
That guy should have a monument. That's right.
He needs it. All right, now we're in Chapter 11. When Chapter 11 started and it was called Haunted, I was like, okay, train graveyard, got it. But it's like, is this also going to be the plate and they're going to work in more theme? I did not expect them, despite the remake taking everything from the original game and blowing it out to such a huge extent, I did not expect a full chapter that's a spook show with trains.
That's what we got.
What'd you think of the chapter?
This was probably the weakest part of the game for me so far. Like, just out of a point of confusion and the fights not being very fun and the exploration not being that interesting. I liked the fight against like the chariot boss. I thought that was cool, but like that was the most sloggiest slog for me, for sure.
I liked both boss fights in that section, in part because it seemed like the gimmick with it was more just, okay, sometimes you have to use physical attacks and sometimes you have to use elemental. So for once, it didn't matter which elemental, materia I had slotted in. I was capable of doing that fight without having to stop and respec everything.
Yeah, I wasn't great at like picking up the cues for when they're in what mode. And I should know it by now, but I still have those moments where I'm like using Aerith for quite a while because I really like using Aerith. And then it's like immune. It's like, wait, do Aerith's attacks count as magic? Because they're like the range thing. They're physical, right? They still count as physical?
No, I think they're magic.
Are they?
Yeah, I think they're
They
magic.
do a little bit of damage.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what I had noticed during that time was that when her attacks were immune, I would immediately switch back to Cloud, and then Cloud would do damage.
Okay.
I could be off on that, but
Gotcha. Zachary Sweet says, I don't know why this is a thing or how anyone is supposed to know this, but during the ghoul fight in Chapter 11, I accidentally used an elixir on the boss instead of on Cloud, and apparently during the second phase, doing that counts as an instant kill. I can't believe this is a thing, but I'm so glad I got rewarded for making such a stupid mistake.
Yeah, it's a throwback.
Yeah.
I did notice that it showed when you like picked up to go use a potion, they would show up on the list of characters that you could use it on.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh, that's weird. And I was very careful to avoid that, which I guess I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
that's so funny because I did that during the first part of the fight where I noticed in items when I was using an item that it was the only time that the boss would show up as like, you can throw a potion towards him as well. And I thought I was the smartest guy in the world to be like, all right, like throw a mega potion, and I don't think it did anything to him during the first part of the fight. And I thought like, crap.
It must just be that second phase because of that BS cutscene that they pack into all these fights, which are just, they look so great, and the transitions I think are amazing, but they only serve to frustrate you when it's like, oh, nope, attack doesn't work. Oh, nope, you can't do this strategy yet. Adam Moran says, I have mixed feelings on the, oh, sorry, not Adam Moran. Andrew Vala says, I appreciate the boss fights trying to have a unique approach, but the ghoul did not work for me. It was interesting that he would rearrange the battlefield, but I was mostly frustrated trying to navigate Cloud and Tifa through the maze of debris, only to have the boss run to a new location once I caught up to it. Yeah, I had a weird thing fighting that boss too, like the ghoul, where I realized like a lot of people are still frustrated by the ATB system in general and how they can't use items. It's such a weird system. And I had it with this fight. It's like, okay, it's either immune to physical or magic, so I'm just going to alternate between these two modes. But it's like, okay, let's say that he's immune to physical attacks right now. Everybody's ATB meters are at 0. And so it's like, the only strategy I can do is run up as Cloud and beat on this ghoul, and it does nothing until I can finally unlock a magic attack. It's like, that seems like a broken system to me.
Nah, it's not that fun.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's, I don't know, I wouldn't say that it's a broken system, but there are times where, like, stepping back a little bit, like, maybe there is a different way to play this to reserve your ATB actions more carefully, and I wonder if that's sort of the intent in the game, is to just be, I think, a little bit more wise with your actions, because there are times where I'm just, as soon as they come up, I'm throwing something out there. But yeah, there are moments where like I'm in a very bad position. Like people are very near dead and nobody has ATB to use. And
Yeah.
I just like don't really know what to do because I don't want to like go towards the boss and get hurt.
Right.
So I end up like running in circles.
It's just grab ass hour. It's just you alternate between players and characters and then just run in circles.
Yeah,
kinda. By both running and guarding, I think you can raise your ATB. I typically save one person with a full bar. I played 90% as Cloud and just switch back and forth for casting and curing, but I usually keep one person with the full ATB just for scenarios like that.
That's probably smart.
That might be just like the way that they want you to play, is like just play it a little bit more strategically.
Instead of just popping it the second you have it, which I think I've been doing for a majority of the time here.
Which is probably what I do too.
Yeah.
But I also like it when Cloud screams, "Grab ass hour!" that part's pretty
Ding, 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 ding.
No doubt that was a hoot. Jason Kelly said, am I the only one who hated the train graveyard? For me, that was the first section that seemed padded out for the sake of making the game longer. I did appreciate that they made it legitimately spooky in parts, as I always thought the section in the original was the second creepiest part of Midgar, just outside of Corneo's weird sex altar dungeon. Yes. I had that feeling too of like I was kind of frustrated by this overall section because like we know our mission. My heart and my momentum, everything is getting me towards protecting the plate and just like seeing that sequence at least. And then it's, oh, but let's slow things down. What is this? Ghost? It's like, we just fought a hell house. Why am I scared of a ghost? Like, I don't care. You should just be sprinting. And even like by the end when it's, you know, thank you for releasing us. And Tifa is like, oh, it's beautiful. It's like, Tifa, sprint! Go, girl! Like, so many people's lives are on the line. We don't have time to appreciate that these ghost children have been freed.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Ghost. What did you say?
It's so infuriating.
I mean, I think it certainly doesn't help that I feel like every 5 minutes or so, Tifa would like point into the sky and kind of be like, okay, I can see it from here. We're almost there. It's like, I would almost rather she just not say anything. You know?
How about, and maybe the geography is a little bit wonky, but how about you just can't see the fighting on the pillar until you get through the ghost graveyard? Is that too much to ask? Just like to not see that earlier, I feel like it just deflated this entire chapter because there were sections where like, oh, it's cool that they're trying to be so spooky in Final Fantasy VII. I like that they're going for a tone. It's just not right now, you guys. Yeah, Julian says that he had a crazy sense of urgency because you could see the tower. Ben Taylor says we're all wrong. And he says, I'm seeing some hate for the train graveyard. I'm hearing it. I'm predicting your conversation. No. But it was my favorite section so far. The spooky fog, the haunting music, the way the lights help guide you through, but in a subtle way, you still get that sense of being in a maze. I think overall, the sewers and lab feel more like cookie-cutter JRPG dungeons, and the train graveyard did a better job of hiding the seams. All right.
Actually, so I've been a little bit down on this, but actually, I really didn't mind the sewers and the ghost graveyard. I actually really liked.
Okay.
I also really liked just like those moments. I really enjoyed the moment with Cloud and Tifa and Aerith, and they were like, Cloud says like, ghosts just really aren't my thing. And then they're all like, you have this moment where you get control of Cloud, and Aerith and Tifa are both like holding on to you so tightly that you can't move.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was very cute.
It was a very sweet moment. I kind of liked the graveyard. I liked it more than the sewers, but I also didn't mind the sewers. Also,
I was even just in our Midgar stream, the train graveyard in the original, it's like it's such a small area, but it is still that moment of in the stream we have to slow down and be like, wait, what do you do here? You move this train, then move this train, and so there's so much of chapter 11, we're like, oh, it's they say it's like a maze, but it's not that bad at all. It's pretty simple, right? And then it wasn't until towards the end, it was like, oh, we actually have to move the trains as well. You were going to slow this down still a little bit more.
They honored all of it.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Ryan Pretz also loved that line where Cloud says, I don't do ghosts. It's like, all right, buddy. Christopher Reardon says, finding one gil in a treasure chest in the train graveyard, then hearing a child laugh and turning around and there's a creepy graffiti saying, wrong way. What the hell? It just occurred to me that Cloud... he just really liked that section. I did like hearing that laughter too on the one gil treasure chest. That was fun.
Yeah, it just like made you feel like all right, like somebody's watching every move that I make right now.
Yeah,
and they're having fun.
Also, Christopher has a very important point where he says it just occurred to me as well that Cloud wears a muscle shirt that's also a turtleneck sweater. Yeah, I guess so.
What's up with like Marlene appears as a ghost? Like for a moment,
it is very odd. Yes. Yeah, so Andrew Vala also wrote in,
freak Tifa out, or is there really some theme there? Is that?
I think all it is, it's a natural way for them to transition to fill in some more Marlene backstory before Marlene becomes more important, like in chapter 12. I don't think it's any more than that of just Tifa worrying about Marlene, seeing a little girl ghost, and then the game is just transitioning between those. With that, did I take that in the way everybody else did?
it confused me. Like I was like, is Marlene like ethereal or something? Like, is she here? Does Tifa know? Because Tifa had this knowing look. It's like, oh, she's ghosting about again or something. Like it just confused the hell out of me. I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't like it.
Nobby Buckles says, was the train graveyard just pure homage to Final Fantasy VI? If they're going to go all in on Final Fantasy callbacks, they should have had Cloud suplex one of them. I guess, yeah. They love ghost trains in Final Fantasy, don't they? But I think it's all an homage to Ghostbusters 2, actually, I believe, where Winston screams while a train goes through him, which is a very evocative thing to experience as a child. Not to watch, but to actually feel happen to you. Adam Moran says, I have mixed feelings on the ghost designs from Chapter 11. I like that some of them resemble cartoony Halloween decorations, but they just have too much going on. What are they supposed to be made of? Burlap? Denim? What's up with that hideous back patch on the friendly ghost?
I mean, that Final Fantasy and like too much going on is like that's all they do, man. Like there was a woman who had like a dress made of belts in Final Fantasy X. Like too much going on is like always character design in Final Fantasy. Like that's Nomura's like favorite thing.
Yeah, a lot of time in the morning to get ready.
even the ghosts. They're coming over this way. Get ready.
Is that kind of what the ghosts look like in the original?
No. It's just like a couple ghosts that you fight. I don't remember the design. They don't look like sad kids in burlap sacks.
Potato sacks.
Yeah, it's just like they're like little white floaty puffball things.
Yeah, it looks like a ghost in real life, like the one behind you right now. Regular Cloud over here.
I don't do ghosts.
Like the whole theme of it feels a little bit like that comment of it just feels like the wrong time for it, right? But just the message of Aerith being like, oh, all this time they're just wanting somebody to come play with them. They're just children as well. I just did not care at all, and it drove me nuts. Like I don't care how sad this ghost is right now. Normally I'm up for a sad ghost story.
And I think that was kind of my problem with these first two chapters is it wasn't that there was anything wrong with them. It was just that they were uneventful and in a moment when I wanted to see the story progress. And so they just they felt like detours in a bad way.
Yeah,
totally.
Which makes me wonder, I mean, do you think that this was like, do you feel like the developers had the same sort of plight? Like, hey, wait a second, maybe this ghost graveyard does not make sense right here.
In the original game.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, just like they had to come to terms with like, okay, and maybe the response is what you guys were saying, which is just like, don't show, this collapse or the fighting until after the graveyard, because otherwise none of this really makes a lot of sense.
I mean, the difference between the original and this, though, is that the sewer and the train graveyard took 15 minutes, and if it took 15 minutes in this remake, at the end of the game, somebody could tell me, oh, they were going to flesh that out to 3 hours. I don't feel like I would be feeling like I was cheated if it was a 15-minute section. I don't know if I got anything out of it being 3 hours.
You got a lot of bonding time with the Sahagins.
Yeah, I think it that.
Yeah, he got turned into a frog like a dozen times.
But then I got more of that in Chapter 14, too.
That's true.
Patrick? You did have that. I feel like you did get that moment in the graveyard where where Aerith actually like had that sort of like flashback, or where she was watching herself as a kid, just again be sort of this outsider. And I didn't really know like how to interpret that. Like it looked like she was playing a hide and seek with some other kids, and then they either like never found her or maybe forgot that she was playing or something like that.
Yeah,
seems like you got it.
I think that's it. So
I
Frank,
think you're just a lonely kid. Is kind of what I took.
Yeah. And then that moment where Tifa comes in and said like, "We found you." I mean, I really like that moment.
Yeah.
Okay, make Chapter 11 20 minutes then instead of 2 hours.
Well, you talk about
2 hours.
I thought that they were going to try and connect it more. Frank Acevedo really liked that scene. He said it really pulled on his heartstrings as well. But I thought that they were going to try and connect it more as well, because I remember Tifa was like, "Oh, I used to sell flowers in this area when I was a kid, like at the playground." And so I thought that they were going to connect that, and that when the Sector 6 plate fell, that it like killed Aerith's friends. And I was like, oh, this is how they'll connect the urgency of the moment with this flashback, is it'll show Aerith's friends dying from Sector 6's plate collapsing that everybody talked about. And then that didn't really seem to be the case. It was just showing sad young Aerith, as far as I could read into it.
Well,
Yeah.
but what would the theme then be is that she did have friends but lost her friends, rather than, I mean, that's an entirely different message than like having the opportunity to have friends but not connecting with people.
Just made it seem like she was on the fringe as a kid, but now she has found her true friends.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, that's
That's all
really
it was.
beautiful, Grant. Also, I liked when you first see the ghost kid in Chapter 11, and then Cloud immediately goes to try and kill it, and then Aerith again has to stop him. Like, we're up to what? Johnny, Reno, and ghost children. Cloud's just like, I'm ready to go! Just ready to slit a throat, and everyone has to be like, Jesus Christ, man.
When is someone just going to let him kill somebody?
Oh, well, we're saving it. He's going to kill the hell out of somebody.
Corneo had it coming. I mean, if anybody was going to get it, should have been him.
Yeah, he sees a ghost kid like, oh, I miss my mommy. And he's ready to slice his throat. Meanwhile, Corneo's like, hear him out. Hear him out.
What kind of material you got over there?
What were you going to do to my body? Colin Mahovlich. Thank you, Colin, for writing in. We support you and your last name. He says, hey, I was so hyped. I was so hyped to see Eligor back as a boss at the end of Chapter 11. Not only that, but you can steal a weapon for Aerith from him, just like in the original game.
Oh, like
Yeah.
you use the steel material?
Yeah. Did you do that,
so
Jeff?
I managed to do it, and that was great. But other than that, I fucking hate the steel materia because it seems like it just never works.
Oh, really?
And I will talk about like the Reno and
Rude.
rude fight later, but every other time that I've tried to use that, it just always fails, and I don't know what the hell's going on with it.
I didn't even use it. Like, I've had some playthroughs of 7 or just other RPGs where I really love focusing on steel, and this time I don't think I've even tried equiping it yet.
Well, don't bother.
I have Tifa equipped with it. What I found is if you stagger them and then you steal, it seems like it's 100% that you get whatever they're
Really?
given.
I guess if like I thought it was going to be, you have to work down their health to a certain extent.
Right.
And
Like Pokemon.
and in the Reno and Root fight, they were both down to 1 hit point because apparently your AI opponents won't finish off characters for you. And I was just chasing them around, trying to use the steel and continually failing with it. And at that point, you can't stagger them or anything. And it's just not worth it. And taking up a materia slot for it and everything, it's just a pain in the ass.
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot about that Eligor thing. Everyone was so excited to see him. I forgot about him in the original game, but I guess it's like a super rare occurrence in the train graveyard. This Eligor guy will appear, and then he's also in the Gold Saucer later on in the battle arena.
Yeah, he was cool. I liked him.
Willie Aguilar says, Eligor. Willie, you should change your last name to Eligor. So Willie Eligor writes in and says, Eligor was the first boss fight that actually frustrated me and started to show the cracks of the battle system. The non-controlled characters would just stand in Eligor's way when he rode around in a circle and took damage. Get out of the way, Aerith and Tifa, he says. And their ATB meter feels too slow. Chapter 11 is also where I realized how much it sucks to fight flying enemies. Targeting them just isn't very accurate. Yeah, flying enemies are always a mess. Like, some moves will work on them, some won't. Evan Plumley says, Eligor's carriage wheels are my least favorite thing in the remake thus far. No matter how many times I whacked them, I kept coming back for more and more of that wheel whacking action. Did Eligor give any fellow button mashers a problem? Yeah. That was one of those boss fights where I just feel like, am I doing any of these boss fights right? I just feel like there's more of a puzzle here than I'm understanding in so many of the situations, but I'm just going to whack the hell out of this thing in a Hell House-like situation and eventually make it through.
I feel like that was a good opportunity for me to again realize that there's a good opportunity to do maximum damage, and then there are very poor opportunities to do damage, and I feel like I figured that out in this fight. In the Hell House fight, I did not figure that out at all, but this one I did. So I didn't have actually didn't have any problems with
Eligor. What is the secret with Eligor then?
I mean, I can't remember exactly, but there was a moment where after he would circle around, he would stop, and he'd be very vulnerable to pretty much anything while he was, I don't know if he was casting a spell or just getting ready to do his next thing, but at that moment, he was very open to physical attacks, and so
Gotcha.
kind of what I did.
Yeah, I think the assess said something like that, but I'm like, I don't know exactly when that window is. I don't know how big it is. But I do like after you beat him, and Tifa has that moment where she goes, and you can go to hell. And she does like a somersault to finish him off in that cutscene. It's very good. And I hope Elagor did go to hell. All right, chapter 12 starts. Adam Dominguez says, voice acting moment I want to point out. After the train graveyard warehouse, the trio hear a radio call from Sang and Reno confirming Tifa's biggest fear, and she delivers the absolutely pitch-perfect line, they're really going to drop the plate. Okay. Jeffem and Kyle, well, Kyle, you don't count anymore, I guess, because you're a confusing wad. But Jeffem, did you think that they were going to drop this plate?
True.
Huh?
Did you think they were going to drop the plate?
Yeah, you kind of ruined that for me last episode.
Oh, no.
Because or maybe it was the first episode. You asked a pointed question because you're not as smart as you think, but you were like, where do you think all the team members are going to end up? And it was like, oh, yeah, they're all going to die, aren't they?
Well,
what's their death date?
Yeah,
I asked what you think they're going to be doing. You're like blowing up more Mako reactors. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, it took me a little while longer to puzzle that one out in my brain, but
damn it!
But then I was
sorry.
like, oh yeah, you know what? It makes sense. They're probably all going to die at some point. And then in the last segment, I think they, it was no secret that was the plan the entire time. So it was like, okay, this makes sense. That just being, like a third of the way through or wherever we are, it seems like a good kind of opening act, and that kind of started filling in why people care about this story so much. That you work so hard to try and avoid this tragedy, but it happens anyway, and that kind of kicks off a larger adventure, was my understanding of it. So.
Yeah, it is something that I think about. Like, I'm thinking about more and more just about this remake. Is they have taken, such a small chunk of the original game and made it so big that this is going to be an epic, because there are times with the story moving forward that these themes that have already been established are going to hit even harder and harder and harder, and it's going to be I think it's going to be tough to ask the audience to always be invested or surprised. I think with the game kind of moving forward.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know how the rest of the game is going to make sense, given where we're at right now and the level of polish that this small section of the game is.
Yeah.
We are 10% into
that is
a monster of a story.
It is a very weird feeling. I had it in the train graveyard where I just had to zoom out for a second and be like, I'm so deep into this game. And then I just had to realize, this is the train graveyard. This is the beginning of Final Fantasy VII.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Is we're in the train graveyard that takes 15 minutes to do.
Yeah. And
I'm an hour 2 in it, and I have we're learning more about the characters. It's very strange to then think about well, what if they did that for the rest of the game? And we'll finish this game when I'm 62 years old.
100%, yeah. Back to the surprising aspects of Chapter 12, I think it was when we're doing the Great Goaty Hunt. I remember at some point Suriel was talking about the Avalanche members, and he mentioned Jessie, and he's like, oh, I guess so, she hasn't joined your party yet? And it was just that realization of oh my God, yeah, people don't realize that they're not joining the party. And in my mind, it's so obvious why they don't join the party, because they gotta go. Jeffem, how did it strike you?
I liked all of it. I liked the storytelling of it as it was all kind of unraveling. It was that sense, and aside from the conversation I had with you, I think it was just foreshadowed to that point enough that it maybe didn't, it wasn't a big shock to me that's how that was unraveling.
Well, definitely the plate falling, I feel was foreshadowed. We even talked about it. I felt bad about this, but even in the last episode of The Deepest Dive, where it was hey, can't believe they're talking about the history of dropping plates. I felt that was just beating you over the head with a plate itself. But I guess not so much I don't feel like there's too many moments, unless you just understand, like, okay, this is probably like the low point, end of the second act type moment if you really want to break down what's going on in Midgard. But there's not too many moments of Jesse being like, I'm going to live forever. Yay. Like, I don't feel like their death is really hinted at.
Yeah, no. It was to the point where you run across Biggs first, right?
Yeah, he falls. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when he was dead, it was like, okay, this is gonna. I was surprised
Wedge.
that. Huh?
I'm sorry. I thought Wedge first. You technically run into, but yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was surprised that Wedge was the one who lived out of all that, but.
So were we, because he is quite dead from that fall in the original.
Super.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense.
And so hopefully we're not spoiling anything, but it is very weird. And this is like number one in my mind. Let's see. So somebody wrote in about it here, Grant, as a good lead for you. Eric Reed said, Wedge surviving the pillar made me so happy. I'm super paranoid about his health and well-being, though. Those time ghosts are going to come back and murder him, I bet.
They have to snuff him out, right?
They were, it was very clear. Okay, first of all, in the original, he falls like 700 feet and then still says, I love you, Cloud, before he dies or whatever.
Yeah.
But then in this one, they do that same trick that they do with Cloud where he's falling. He uses the grappling hook to slow himself down a little bit.
Yeah.
But then he's like, okay, he gets his big hero moment. And then during the amazing cutscene of the plate falling, he's like wrangling his cats and the ghosts are like keeping him there, right? I believe the ghosts are there with his cats.
Oh, interesting.
Maybe I'm misremembering that and just projecting it, but it is that weird thing that I'm like, okay, well, clearly he's dead there. No, he's still alive. And the ghosts aren't really harassing him as far as I can see. They're in like the Shinra underground thing that we'll talk about later, but not obsessed with Wedge. Whereas like they were all around Biggs as he was dying. They were all around Jesse. It seems like they like pulled the grenade on Jesse. I was confused about that.
And if they didn't pull the grenade, they toppled a bunch of debris on her. Like, I don't know what was going on there.
Just die, please. You don't like your acting.
This is written in the scriptures. You must perish.
What do we think is going on? Any new conclusions about spooky ghosts and the whether that theory is holding, that they're here to hold true to the original Final Fantasy VII?
Did you have more counterexamples?
For me, that's number one.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I feel like we just need one. I think to kind of at least make it a little bit more complicated. My concern is that as we get to know a little bit more about his condition, like either A, like he actually, doesn't make it out, or B, they do come back to intervene in a very in a way where it's clear to the audience that would know that this is exactly what it is. Like they're doing everything in their power.
So, I mean, if that's the case, what would be the point instead of just letting him die at that point?
Because
I don't understand.
We needed him as the goal for going into that underground warehouse. Like that seems like a stretch.
I guess. I don't know.
I'm open to other interpretations because that's the only thing that I can think of.
I mean, the community was rallying behind it. They were into that idea a lot.
Was your takeaway though that the ghosts circling him were trying to protect him?
No, that they were trying to keep him there. Keep him there. Yeah, well, the plane.
Yeah, so maybe they just weren't successful at that point.
Ghosts don't fail, dude, unless they're kids.
Ghosts fail all the time. We've been kicking their asses. They've been trying to hold us in place.
I guess that's true. Yeah, I don't get it. If it's just going to be something dumb, like you go back to Elmira's house and it's like, Wedge choked on his pillow. He didn't make it.
I was impressed with Tifa just fully being like, oh, he's fine. I just I think she touched his chest gently and she's like, oh, yep, no, he's great.
I know, checked his pulse.
You know what? I'm sure he's going to be fine too. Thank you for your follow-up, Barrett.
It's very confusing. Yeah, okay, so Andrew King says, he was debating, he's going back and forth about whether or not the fidelity of the game helps or hurts the story because he loves the art of the original. But then Andrew says, Tifa, Cloud, and Aerith race to save Sector 7 and its subsequent destruction has a genuine emotional power because of the stakes inherent in having the plate hanging over the slums like the Sword of Damocles. Its environmental design is Chekhov's gun. which is a very interesting point. Like the fact that was the most common comment on the last episode or on the first episode was just looking up at the plate and seeing it there. Like, it's amazing that is exactly what they were driving home. Is just, hey, look how scary this thing is directly above you this whole time, and it's done.
Yeah, that they have that as like software that you can activate. Like, why would they?
Yeah.
Put a fence up. Like, don't let people walk up that pillar and just hit the button. Darkfish
Need
Days.
a password.
That is true. Darkfish Days says, I'm sure many people will comment about this, but I need to say it as well. Jessie's death hit me hard. The way her ashen face made her look broken, her joking while clearly in pain, her accepting responsibility with the line, they were my bombs, they were all my victims, I had it coming. Cloud catching her arm as she goes limp, the way the music stays with you even after the cutscene ends. There's so many details that made this moment an emotional gut punch. Ronnie, you big softy, how'd you handle this?
You know, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, Biggs' death actually hit me a little bit harder.
Really?
And I don't entirely know why. He just seemed a little bit more sincere, and in the moments of just like, hey, Cloud, here's you. I see you. I'm dying. Please continue this legacy. And I felt like Jessie was a little bit like almost too theatrical, and it's just like, well, you know, you're dying here, and like you know, it was so histrionic almost, like that. I thought, like, man, just be sincere right now. But maybe this is her being sincere.
Well,
and this is like her approach and philosophy to life has been this sort of lighthearted approach, but she also makes bombs.
Like,
so,
you're right. I was waiting for her at the end after she says her final words, like, don't you guys have somewhere to be? It's not polite to stare, you know, for her just to go like, psych, or something. Like, it feels...
Stand up.
Yeah.
I'm joining you.
Whatever. The chronology's weird now. But I'm with you. The part that killed me with Jessie's, and by the way, I was not that emotionally moved by this. I was looking forward to it so much, especially considering how much I love those characters in the opening chunk here.
Yeah.
And I think a decent part of it is the music. When you're going up the tower, it wasn't emotional. It, like, there's a section of that music that sounds like the opening to Speed Racer, like the and it's just like this weird tone that isn't bringing it through. But the part that killed me with Jessie's death or the most emotional part, was when she kept commenting on Tifa. Like, right when they pull her out of the rubble, she's like, oh, Tifa, if you could see your face right now, like that type of stuff.
well, she was like, why are you crying?
Yeah, then later on, she talks about, she's like, oh, Tifa's crying. Oh, no. You know, like those moments were the most affecting, and then everything else is like, I wish I felt it a little bit more than, you know, what they're presenting, which is this Cloud saying, you owe me a pizza. Stuff like that.
Well, I did actually, weirdly enough, I did actually like that.
Did you?
That there was some moment in him that was just trying to figure out a way to keep her, you know, invested in staying alive, and like that was the best that he could do. And I thought that was pretty good. Yeah.
Also, Ronnie, if you could keep your mic a little bit still, it makes some noise when you rattle around. Just stop spinning your head around if you could. Aaron Carmichael says, new to Final Fantasy VII here, and I absolutely bawled for Jessie and Biggs, and during Elmira's flashback, actually. Neil Brown says, both Jessie and Biggs' final scene almost made me teary-eyed, and I never cry. However, going from those scenes to immediately buying Phoenix Downs for discounted prices made me chuckle. Why can't we use them to revive them? Well, we learned. You just pass out, and that's what the Phoenix Down is for, apparently. But that's an age-old Final Fantasy VII debate. Grant, the deaths, how did they treat you?
For chapter 12, the most emotional I got was neither of their deaths. It was a different scene entirely.
Oh, do you want to jump to it? What are you talking about?
Sure. It was the section where you're playing as Aerith and you go back to save Marlene from the bar.
Oh.
That was my favorite part of the chapter, and damn near broke me, actually.
Because of the Marlene acting?
It was Aerith, actually. She's just so sweet with her. Something about that scene.
Oh, yeah.
I was playing, it was like 2 a.m, had a few drinks, damn near got me. It's close.
Wow.
You know, it didn't help that there's this, like, that whole sequence was really well done, and I really liked it, and I also found it heartbreaking, but just that glowing sign in the background of the whole cutscene, eggs and chips.
All right.
It's just,
All right, you
so distracting. I'm like, what is eggs and chips? I don't know. Is that
Midgar
like
special?
a Japanese thing that I don't understand?
We'll get to that. That's disc 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the line that killed me in that scene too is like, I love the sense of attachment to Seventh Heaven. Even later on, Tifa seems more distraught about the destruction of Seventh Heaven than the death of Biggs and Wedge, or than Biggs and Jesse. But I love when Marlene, and she's so sad, and she's like, "Are they going to destroy the bar? Destroy the house?" And like that got me the most out of that section there.
She was just so trusting of Aerith right away too.
Well, there is something bizarre, right? Evan Plumley says, as a newcomer, I'm completely at a loss over the interaction between Marlene and Aerith in Seventh Heaven. It seemed as though Marlene had some sort of transference from Aerith that calmed her down. Did I miss something there? And Yarrow is convinced that Aerith is keeping some secrets. What was that in your mind?
Probably similar to when Cloud touches her. It seems like her as an ancient has some type of ability to project something. I guess I don't know exactly what Marlene may have seen, but I guess I have some speculation, but I don't really want to say anything, I guess.
I took it as, and I don't think it's a spoiler because it's new and confusing, but I took it as like she'll see a vision of the future. And spoiler, learn that everything will be all right, relatively.
I think it. I guess it just like imprinted upon me that like there was a message of like clarity and trust that just like words probably could not convey at that moment. So Aerith did something either consciously or subconsciously to get her into a place where she needed her to trust her.
But
she needed Marlene to trust her.
If it is just trust alone, I don't think Aerith would have followed it up with by going shh and like basically telling her, "Shut your mouth, Marlene! Don't you tell anybody about what you said." So it seems like there's some concrete info that she has from it, right?
That's the part where I have some speculation upon what vision of the future she may have seen, but I don't want to say anything more than that, I guess.
Yeah. Whoa. I was confused about the fact that it kind of has that Cloud glitch effect. You know, that's the part where I was like, what is that? Like, that's such a thing reserved for Cloud. And when Aerith touched Cloud, you see it, obviously. And the fact that that's happening away from Cloud now, it's like, I don't understand this.
Well, I think we're just expanding that sort of event or phenomenon to just not just Cloud, right?
I get it now. Do you have any thoughts on that, rookies?
No, that was weird. I don't know what Aerith's deal is.
I don't remember, but did they have like some weird like animation or some special effect that implied some sort of magic happening? Because I thought it was just like Aerith is this woman who intrinsically is like good with kids and you immediately trust, and Marlene just was looking for someone to save her. I didn't really take it as any kind of like magical.
Well, Kyle, do you remember like that moment where like you almost like you hear the static sound and then like the screen goes kind of like greenish?
Yeah, it's like the audiovisual glitch type thing.
So
and then like there was that moment of Marlene being like, "Oh."
Okay, I guess that kind of washed over me. Like I missed it, and I was just like, Aerith is a very motherly character, and Marlene needs help. So
gotcha.
Kyle, you got to stop trusting strangers with your children, okay?
But it's never been a problem. So
you know what? Yeah, just keep on doing it.
Cool.
It'll be fine.
Jason Bristol says, it's hard to put into words how I felt about the plate dropping and the aftermath. Shinra and the Turks' ability to kill so many is a heavy concept, and I'm curious how this turns out going forward. I did want to give props to the Sector 7 evacuation when playing as Aerith. It really showed the chaos of those people running to get to safety and leaving everything they know behind. Scott Castro says, I don't know if it's just because I experienced the events in-game during a rather dire real-world global crisis, but the sequence with Aerith navigating the chaotic streets of Sector 7 is trying to get Marlene to safety was particularly affecting. Am I crazy? Was this done particularly well in comparison to similar games, not similar sequences in other games, or is the precariousness of global affairs affecting my judgment?
Little column A, little column B.
Yeah.
I think it was well done. Like I think you can give credit where it's due. I don't think it's just a time and place necessarily.
Yeah.
For that being an entirely new scene too. I just thought it was really well handled. It was just super cool. It's one of those things I've never thought of, like, oh, what was Aerith doing while we were running up the tower?
Right. And then you had like I had that moment of like, yeah, this is a perfect thing to put into the game. Is like
100%.
what was Aerith doing during this time? Like I love that.
Yeah. And we know that their biggest obstacle was to get through that gate. And hey, the Shinra soldier comes back and opens the gate. I like that's Wedge's like big accomplishment. He's like, lead these people through the gate. And then, hey, they did it. And Wedge gets to feel good about himself, even though he's like, he seems competent. He's not like a buffoon. So it's weird that like that was his big victory, was just convincing a nice guy to do a nice thing.
Yeah, especially when like the alternative is for the soldier, like, well, I guess you can sit here and not open it and die with the rest of us. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I love it later on too.
Don't
when
take
you're going
away from him. He really did something.
You're right. Wedge is my hero. But I like later on too when you're looking at like the survivors of the plate, and it's all just like, I think the first two people you see when you're walking through like a row of survivors are like two Shinra soldiers, and they're just like hanging out too. I love that. Just like guards down. We don't know what the hell's going on. Connor. So some people were not crazy about the death scenes. They say it was too melodramatic, that it went on too long. Like the whole my last words thing is just stupid. Connor said he was annoyed that like it was basically the same back to back. That Biggs had his big dying sequence, then Jesse had her big dying sequence.
Like I commented earlier, like it really felt like there were Cloud just kept crouching next to people and grabbing their back and like pushing them up. Like it just kept happening over and over. Like I think it would have been way more impactful if one of the two characters, like you just came across them and they were dead. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like that would have hurt a lot more.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Well, I feel like in the original game, like you would, you were going up the pillar and you would see these people and they were injured. Like Biggs, like Wedge fell off. Same thing. Biggs was very, very injured. Jesse was very injured, right? But there wasn't this moment where like, oh, they're dead. The thing that actually killed them was that you failed to not stop the plate from falling.
Right.
That's when they died.
I mean, they were in a bad way, though. It was implied. There's a lot of ellipses in there.
But you didn't. I mean, upon like going up there and like seeing that Jesse and Biggs were, injured, you wouldn't think like, oh, they're dead. Like, the thing that killed them was the plate falling.
It still feels like they died off screen a little bit to me.
Yeah, because I mean, even Cloud tells Barrett like, oh, they were hurt pretty bad. I still think it's the plate dropping that eventually kills them.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, Jason M. O'Brien was confused about when exactly that happens. Maybe. I mean, yeah, if Wedge was unconscious, maybe they just went unconscious too. It's confusing. Swanky Orc said, I couldn't help but laugh at Biggs's drawn-out death speech. Swanky Orc, please. He said, just when I thought he had passed away, he kicked it back up again and started talking about orphans. It's like a death scene from some kind of comedy. That struck me as funny too. It was like he was dying. He gave his big speech about like, don't give up, Cloud. Do it. Keep going. It's all for you. Thumbs up. And then, he goes like, the kids at the orphanage, they're great. Like when he said they're great, like who's judging? Just say your message and die, man. Okay, there's this
talking
one.
About tiger blood. It was weird.
Also, Andrew Valla says a lot of people seem to look up to Biggs as a responsible strategist and hero of orphans, but let's not forget that during the last moments of his life, he chooses to make a fat joke about Wedge by saying, I could have used some extra padding myself. You're right. It was unforgivable. It was definitely a wincing moment. Also, it was dumb that, like, I don't know if you went back and talked to Wedge in Aerith's house when he's all tucked away in the bed.
Oh,
Did anybody do that?
No.
No, I don't think so.
No, sir.
Well, you never guess the class of the game. You go up and talk to him, and he's in
Pizza.
critical
Could
condition.
really use a pizza, bro.
Yeah.
Very close. He just goes, hamburgers.
Oh, I said that on iTunes.
Beaten Down Brian, hero of MinnMax. He says, the scenes with Biggs, Jesse, and Barrett during chapters 12 and 13 have been a low point of this game for me.
Okay.
When I compare these to scenes in chapter 13, the flashback with Aerith's mom, the moment between Cloud and Tifa in the garden, and the scene where Barrett learns the fate of Biggs and Jesse after they've rescued Wedge, which I felt like were all handled superbly, it almost felt as though these scenes had been written and directed by two completely different people. I'm really curious how the panel felt about the scenes in chapter 12, or if they landed for you at all. I think that speaks a little bit to some of that inconsistency. And I don't know if I was just in the wrong headspace, or it's just, sometimes emotionally things don't land. But when everything was kicking me in the gut so much in the first two chunks, and then by and large, so many scenes here, and even like this pivotal scene where all my favorite people from Avalanche die, and it was like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I can see that. I think most of the emotion for it is coming just from what you've learned of those characters and realizing they're not going to be around anymore. They did feel so contrived and kind of soap opera-y.
Yeah.
You know, it just the how you come across a character and they basically just look fine, except they got a little, you know, dirt smudged on them. But then it's like, okay, I'm going to launch into my monologue, you know, as I'm dying. It all felt a little too contrived, I think, and that kind of robs it a little. Like if they had looked like actually bad, you know, like really beat up, I think it could have been a much more affecting, you know. But it's kind of just that like when cowboys would get shot in old westerns, and it's just the reaction, but you know, there's no blood there or anything like that.
They're like holding their stomach.
Yeah, it's just kind of we're acting our way through it.
Yeah.
Kind of
Time Bomb Tom really liked that moment when all the debris was falling on Wedge when he was on the ground, and then Tifa just kicked the hell out of it. It's really good. So she might be the ghost because she saved Wedge there.
Maybe.
Wait, opposite of the ghost.
Do we want to talk about the bipedal cat that?
Kyle, we have so much to get to. We're not there yet. Steve Bitto said that he thought it just took too long to get up the pillar. He said it was overkill, literally. Those fights were tougher than I expected.
And part of that is those freaking helicopter geeks.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They sucked.
Thank you for calling them geeks. I hate
and the way that they would waft out, you know, where you can't reach them.
Yeah.
Especially when you're playing as Cloud, and it's like,
yeah,
well,
which I don't got no magic on him.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I have all purple materia. Like it's HP up, it's deadly dodge. It's all those fun ones.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a funky boy.
Cloud's pure melee, and he rocks it, man.
That's tough because with a lot of those, like, well, I need Thundara on there in order to make any impact there. Especially there's so many of those. Like, all right, here's a sentry gun. I know that Thunder will take care of it real quick and stuff. Barrett Boswell wrote in and says, Boswell, that's what? No, he says the Reno and Rude fight was my favorite.
No, hang on. What? I'm sorry. Did you want to finish that?
Yeah. Barrett Boswell wrote in, Ronnie.
Yep.
And he says, Ballswell the Swallswall.
Nailed it.
Okay, he's got the question of the week.
That Reno and Root fight was my favorite of the game so far. The fight's challenge, stakes of the fight, and the dialogue from the two were great. I loved Reno's commentary from the helicopter on the way up while he's trying to shoot you. The character grew on me from chapters 8 to 12 with that display alone.
Yeah, I do really like that Rude and Reno have definitely like they've known each other. They have a camaraderie. I really enjoy that they're playing that up a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't take much to make it more fleshed out than it was in the original. But yeah, Matt Parser wrote in about that same thing, that like there's a sense of friendship and that they care how the other one's doing. When one thinks the other one's dead, it's like a genuine concern. And even though they work for Shinra, like they're humans, they're conflicted, even though they ultimately make the wrong call over and over and over again.
He even says, he's like, well, it's too late for me to grow a conscience now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which I think are words we can all live by.
I did also like when Rude bombs halfway through, though, and Reno just kind of has to run out of the way and jump over that fence. And he's like, well, he's doing whatever he wants to.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I was actually annoyed by the amount that Reno was talking. Maybe it's because I found that section to be a little bit tougher than I was anticipating going in. But his commentary of him screaming was like, I like Reno, but I'm a little annoyed by him now. Like, he's just got to shut the hell up. And then when you get to the top and he sees Cloud and he just fully envelops the Jesse Pinkman and he goes, it's nothing personal, bitch. And then he like goes out to fight. I was like, what is this? What is this, Reno?
I applauded during that moment.
I was lukewarm on him until he called me a shitbird, and then he was top tier character for me after that.
Let's see. Andrew Palermo says, in the original game, I remember the Turks being an annoyance. After spending so much more time with Biggs and Wedge and Jesse, I am angry. I really want to be able to kill Reno and Rude in this game.
This was the segment of the game where I just super tired of boss fights where you kick a guy's ass and then he still escapes at the end of it.
The Corneo effect, yeah.
Yeah, which I understand because it was, originally 10 hours of the game or whatever, and they want these characters to keep on coming back, and that's how you kind of build up bad guys, is that's the only time you're really spending any time with them. But it really kind of undermines every one of these fights when it undermines it, at least from a story perspective. I'm building up towards this, and this one was especially annoying for me because it does, you win the fight and then you end up losing because the guy got to a computer and he pressed the button, and that's what caused this entire catastrophe. And I get it. I totally get it from a gameplay and larger narrative perspective, but it feels like those first two, or the last two chapters, how they didn't really work because you're trying to get to the story and get to the part that you're actually invested in. It feels like every one of these boss fights I get invested in from a narrative perspective and defeating these villains, but every time they always end up getting away, and then it's like, well, okay, then this really accomplished nothing.
Yeah, I hear you for sure.
Oh my gosh, I feel like that's such a good point that I never thought about that. Like that, I suppose, like, we look at these characters as like, well, of course they're not going to die now.
Yeah.
But for somebody that doesn't know the story, like, you're like, okay, well, this is the moment that, like, these characters have been introduced in the past. We know who they are. They're doing something clearly that, like, we do not want them to do. This is a showdown. And still, we have that moment of like, oh, of course, yeah, this is...
Yeah, and especially with this one, they got me because I thought at least Reno was going to die.
Interesting.
It's, I kicked Reno's ass once, he got away. I kicked Rude's ass once, he got away. I kicked Rude and Reno's ass, and they still both get away. It's like, what the am I doing at this point?
and they were successful.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Like that's a great point. And not something that I've thought about yet, is that, like, yeah, there's probably going to be a lot of that frustration. Even Abzu comes back.
Yep.
Remember me. Eric Reed says Rude drops the pillar in this game, but it was Reno in the original game. Unlike Reno, Rude seems genuinely conflicted on if he should do it. Also, Rude purposely causes Reno to miss shooting at Tifa. This is a fun nod to Rude having a crush on Tifa in the original game. As a very fun. A lot of people were in about that, like, why did he make the helicopter miss? And it's like, I think it is just that classic crush nod. But
that was so much fun that they did that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, the nod was just like, why did you do that? He's like, well, I must have slipped.
Right.
Immediately, like, oh yeah, he likes Tifa. Like, that's the thing.
Everybody loves her. Why do you think they made that swap of having Rude drop the pillar? Because there's a moment of, like, especially in this game, watching him hover over that button. I'm like, when he presses that button, he's a dead man. No more defending Rude. No more thinking his glasses are cool. No more laughing at his moments. He's got to go. And
maybe it was just a simple reevaluation of just like, this character seems like the one who is more likely to do it, just because he's so stern, Like maybe it's as simple as that.
He definitely does seem like yeah. I think Rude definitely seems more by the books, and Reno seems more just. I don't know. He seems like he's in the realm of
like someone you want to hang out with and have a beer with,
That's right.
Yeah, somebody you want to rub the red things off his face with, whatever those are. I keep thinking it's his hair, but it's not his hair.
Tattoos.
Just tattoos of, like, extensions that look kind of like his hair. It's very confusing. Yeah, I like them playing up the kind of propaganda angle of, like, getting on the bullhorn, just being like, stop, terrorists, don't do it. Like, I love watching them phone it in, like, all right, that got the job done, right? Like, we technically got the message out there, which I was shocked, just like the propaganda level overall, that Shinra isn't hitting it harder. Even to jump ahead, not to jump ahead permanently, but watching, like, people in the slums watching the news about the plate falling, I thought it'd be a slick Shinra production of, like, those Avalanche bastards are at it again. Here's this footage. They did it. Blame them. But instead, it's just like this weird, somber tone of the newscaster just being like, we think something horrific has happened. It's like they weren't as prepared with the propaganda as I would have expected at this point in the story.
I actually felt like that was an intentional route to take the sort of propaganda, because, like, I still think that Midgar and Shinra might just be, like, the only maybe that the world has ever seen, like the largest form of government. And so like this might be the first time that propaganda has played a very large role in how they like how they run.
So they don't need to try very hard. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is I don't think that there's like a huge strategy in terms of just like, hey, we need to sell this to the community. I think the message is like they're going to buy whatever we're selling.
Yeah, and it can be pretty subtle. Well, you heard the guy in the helicopter say that one line over through the bullhorn thing.
It was Avalanche, obviously.
Yeah. Fred DeNovo says during this section with the boss fight with Reno and Rude, it was a cool touch that Reno's club has 2 slotted materia in it. It looks like a green one, probably lightning, and a purple one. Deadly dodge, maybe? That's a cool detail. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it was deadly dodge.
Absolutely deadly dodge. Ronnie knows a deadly dodge when he sees it.
And
Jonathan Fenn writes in, says, I have to know Jeffem's reaction to watching the most devastating moment of the game being punctuated by an anthropomorphic cat breaking down in tears.
Okay, here is the note that I typed out right after watching that. Finale of plate falling, very impressive. Who the fucking cat?
I wrote something similar, Jeffem. I wrote, the is that sad cat thing? What I wrote.
Sad kitty.
That was a strange choice of when to casually bring in this anthropomorphic cat, just like falling to his knees, like no.
I agree with it.
Take me, Lord. Yeah. Matt says, "Hey Ben, it was pretty late on Saturday night, and I was a few beers in." But I swear I saw a Pixar cat with some gloves from Sonic pounding the floor at one point. Did I dream this? I've never played Final Fantasy VII before.
Is this like, what was it in Fellowship of the Ring where they had, Strider's love interest pop in for a second, even though even though she's not in the books at all or anything like that, she like shows up for a moment to save everyone.
I don't know, Kyle. We're not dorks.
What was that?
We're not dorks.
Because I was like, it just not knowing who that character is. Like, I'm guessing they're important later, maybe even a party member, and I'm guessing that unless they show up in a big way in the last chunk of the game here, it seems like they're like, well, let's go ahead and make that person's character model because people are going to want to see what he looks like. Well, where can we shove him in? How about here?
How about the most important moment in this game?
Well, now when we meet him again, we'll know that he knows what happened, and there won't have to be an awkward scene of them explaining that the plate fell to him.
This cat saw the plate fall. Yeah, Brian W. is so confused, and he's like, it just adds to the confusion of what's happening in the scene and he's correct, when all I should be thinking about emotionally is like, oh, shit, the plate.
Yeah.
But instead now it's like a detour of like, oh, shit, the plate. Wait, what? Like, it's not a good...
Absolutely.
Right. It hurt the scene overall, I think.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like, if you know what's going on, it's like, okay, they have put a little ounce of context in there for you. But even knowing what's going on, it is just poor placement for that.
It is an ounce.
I liked it.
Do you like it? But do you think if you didn't have that context of what that cat was, would you like it?
No, not at all.
Okay. Yeah, there's a weird thing where Grant, while keeping this ambiguous, somebody wrote in saying that you can see the cat. So stupid. You can see this cat in the Honeybee Inn in the original game. Is that right? So
I have no idea.
The cat is in Midgar in that section, is what somebody said, but I didn't remember that detail.
Really? I don't remember that.
I don't either.
The cat gets around.
I also didn't know that the chariot boss was a random encounter chance in the grave.
Yeah.
In the train graveyard.
Hey, Grant.
What the hell do I know?
Thank you for saying that. I played this game a million freaking times. I've never seen that thing before.
Never
I guess I've never spent hours in the 15-minute section of the train graveyard to find him there.
Well, now you have.
So.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, we've got a game for you.
Train simulator.
Maxwell Eugene Johnner says, I never finished the original Final Fantasy VII, but I remember reaching the plate collapse scene originally and thinking it was amazing. Just the direction of it. The house with the TV going out, the silence, the screams, the Shinra dude watching with music playing in his office like a straight-up villain. And then in the remake, there's a cat. I was stunned, and then I laughed. It was such an egregious non sequitur as someone who hasn't finished the original and has seen no cartoon cats in the game yet, I don't think. It completely pulled me out of the moment. I mean, the plate falling in the original is awesome. Like, just on the stream we did not too long ago, I forgot how cool it is, like seeing inside somebody's apartment and their TV cuts out, and then you see President Shinra listening to opera, watching it happen, which they do have a quick shot in this one of President Shinra.
You even see the news anchor look up. I love that little detail.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was still really something in this though too. The scene, the shot of President Shinra was awesome.
Absolutely.
To give that scene the full treatment, it looks so cool.
And like, it's pretty bombastic when they're like swinging through and make it through just in the nick of time and stuff, but it looks so cool. And like, going back, because I'm capturing all the footage obviously for the video version of this, and so going back and looking at that too, the scene with the cat, it's distracting, but at the same time, it's the best look you have at what's on top of the plate. Like, that's the fascinating part. And somebody wrote in even about it, saying like, what, weren't there houses and stuff up there? Yeah, no one really talks about it, but yeah, there was a whole city up there, and you get to see a little bit of it from the cat's perspective, which is fascinating. And I was trying to do the math here. That's not... The Sector 7 plate wasn't where Jesse's family was, right? That was a different upper crust thing. I forget the number of that one.
Yeah, I guess... I don't remember if they actually gave you a number.
Oh, you know what? I think it is the same plate, because remember there's that shot where Jesse's dad actually falls and crushes Jesse to death?
Right.
Oh my god, how do we not think about
They
that?
land face to face, and it looks like they're kissing for a moment, which is really awkward.
Talk about a Midgar special. Incest. Go. Says the cat.
Did they give the top side numbers, or is that something that's designated for the bottom? Is the top side just Midgar, and the bottom is...
Well, no, I mean, the Mako reactors have numbers. So yeah, the upside has numbers too, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
So Hansa, I gotta go soonish, so I want to make sure that I want to talk about the Elmira scene. Like, maybe we double back a little bit.
Elmira. Well,
that's the Aerith's mother, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
like,
she's coming up here. Yeah.
Yeah, like, I think so. That sequence, the whole flashback, like, and I say this, it's funny because like now I'm looking back, I'm like, oh, I guess I did play all this, but I really genuinely don't remember any of it. So I still consider myself like a newbie here. But like that, without any sort of without any memory of the original game and no nostalgia or anything, that scene really genuinely, like, I teared up a little bit.
Like seeing Aerith's real mom at the train station, or
yeah, just the whole. And it might be just like that sort of storyline always gets me in any media of like a mother like quickly being like, all right, I got to take care of this kid, like at all costs. But like, I think it was, even though there were awkward elements of it where like other people would talk in their voice, but like hers would be, hers wouldn't. Like, it was like strange things like that. Like, it really hit me, and it really genuinely made me tear up. Like, seeing how quickly she took on Aerith, and like how she tried to protect her as much as she could when she found out there was something about her. You know?
Yeah.
And like, it put into context why she was pushing Cloud away. Like, not that I questioned it earlier, but like, it was up to this point, I think it was like the scene that hit me the hardest. Way more than Jesse and Biggs and stuff like that. Was just her telling that story. I was like weird, like surprisingly effective for me.
That's interesting.
You know, I also had that same sort of reaction to Aries' mother, just like having this,
I'm sorry, who?
Yeah, what are you making up characters now? What the hell?
Is that a relative?
Sorry, Arvith's mother. Like having this, you know, moments where she's just pleading to a stranger to take care of, you know, her daughter, and then I had this thought of, like, wait a second, like, there are a lot of single parents in Final Fantasy VII. Like, it's that, I'm not going to say that's a theme, but that is just something that I've noticed quite a bit. Is that everybody seems to have one parent?
It's like easier. It's a very Disney approach to storytelling, where it's like, if you make a character an orphan or the product of a single parent household, you automatically give them a hurdle that they've had to overcome in their life at some point. Like, they already have overcome something by missing out on that element of parenthood,
Also, it just streamlines the storytelling so much too. Of like, okay, you don't have to worry about like, well, why isn't their dad and mom come save them? It's like, no, it's just they're on their own here, right? It just it makes it so clean, and I feel like going back to the Pokemon games, it's easier, I guess. It's such a staple.
Character models to make too,
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, but plus they already used
Also,
Claudia.
I'm not surprised that Kyle's favorite scene is a mom handing off their kid to a complete stranger and completely trusting them.
love it. So
Ties
good.
it all back together again.
It is, yeah.
It's really just hit me personally, I really relate to it.
Even loving this game, maybe I'm just stupid, and that's definitely true, but I appreciated the scene for having a concrete timeline of the war with Wutai. That was 15 years ago. Like having a date on that, because it's always that nebulous thing of like, oh, the war in the past, the war. It's like, was this 20 years ago? Was this 6 years ago? I'm trying to remember Crisis Core, if it's still going on. There's so many things that I was trying to put in a timeline. It's like 15 years, got it.
I really liked the element of like whatever they need Aerith to do, which I don't know what that is. She has to do it voluntarily. I like the idea that she's been there and they keep an eye on her, but they just can't do what they need with her, which is, I think, an interesting element,
Kyle, if you knew what that thing was, as far as what we think it is, that is a very weird thing to communicate in this game, that like she needs to want to do this badly.
All right.
It's uncomfortable.
Is this something I'll find out before next week, or is this something I have to wait 2 decades for?
You'll find out how they address it. I'm curious how they address this beat, because it's a weird beat in the original for sure.
This is going to be absurd.
So, Nate,
All right, I'm excited now.
Yeah, but Nate, kind of hot though. Nate McClellan says,
I'm into it.
Nate
No
says,
surprise there.
I really love the style of humor the game goes for. For instance, in Chapter 13, Barrett rushing into Aerith's house looking for Marlene. I laughed and was like, Barrett, this lady doesn't know who you are.
Just a mountain of a man bursting through your door with a machine gun for an arm.
Or scissors. I don't know.
She's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
a wrecking ball.
You gotta give it up for
She's
the mom.
I understand that Barrett barged in, but then when Elmira's like, keep it down, don't wake her, she's like screaming about it. I'm like, hey, lady, you don't know who this is. Like, this is the father. Like, let him wake his daughter up to let her know that he's alive, for Christ's
You
sake.
do not wake a child up once they're asleep, no matter how much
You're
you miss
telling
them.
me that if you thought your daughter was dead and then you found out that she was alive and she was sleeping in some stranger's house and you barged into that house
She was
and the
taking
neighbor
a nap.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
and the
It's
neighbor
nap
said,
time.
Wake
don't
her up,
wake
you
her up.
asshat.
I mean, you guys are making
Wake
jokes,
anything up
but
or
if
anything.
I was in that situation and I found out my daughter was safe and she was asleep, I would just let her sleep. I would hang out with her, but I wouldn't wake her up.
Forget Barrett.
I'd be fine
New
with that.
bad dad, y'all. New bad dad, y'all.
I think we knew that the whole time.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, she's with a stranger right now. Just she's with the neighbors.
That's fine. That's fine. They're having a good time.
Does he also have a machine gun for a hand, though, Kyle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Kyle, do you want to go check on your daughter?
Let me go get my gun arm and burst into the neighbor's home so I can make sure she's all right.
All right,
If
clap.
she's
Good,
asleep, though, I'm
finally.
going to let her sleep.
Got it. Clap out then. Bye. Plus Ultra. Kyle will be missed. Plus Ultra writes in and says, I was surprised how significant it felt to be able to look up at where the Sector 7 plate was and now see the sky and the stars. It really made me recognize how life-changing this would be for all of Midgar. It is a great point. There's an NPC later on that a lot of people wrote in about, which I love too, where there's an NPC that says, it looks like a part of the sky is missing. Which is like, oh, that's such a fun
my
perspective.
God.
Isn't that great?
That's very good. And yeah, that's very true. Like, you think about like kids. Well, even just like I don't know how long the plates have been up, but I suppose even like adults are in this space where they're just like, that's not what that's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
I mean, if Sector 6 fell when Aerith was a kid, got to wager,
Good point. Yeah.
14, 15 years.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily the case though. They just used to be in the playground, and so maybe that was different. But yeah, I don't know exactly. They said it was when it was being built, Sector 6 fell. But anyways, but Plus Ultra says it'd be a life-changing event for everybody. But then it's kind of undermined when a random NPC says, "Did a plate really fall?" Like, just look up, dude.
The guy.
Yes.
I was like, I feel like it wasn't that the guy that
He's the
was
weapons
like,
shop guy, right?
He was the weaponsmith. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he hasn't left.
He's stuck in his
Long hours,
truck or
man.
whatever's going on there, yeah. Eric Seal says, I love the NPC bark from a woman in Sector 5 complaining that because of that stupid plate, everyone would know she was playing hooky from work. It's amazing that the writers took time to include a range of people's reactions in the wake of catastrophe, like the Sector 7 plate dropping.
A ton of reactions, which is another example of when I think this game shines the most, of just how much dialogue they recorded for every stinking person that you walk past in those sections.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
It's crazy.
Ben, didn't you say that you like got or that you turned that off, like the chatter in the background?
Oh no, I can hear it. I just turned off the text on the screen.
Bar, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, which I still love. Jamie Lee Curtis, our hero, wrote in and says, quote, "It's like someone popped the lid off our world. A random quote from an NPC that is surprisingly deep. The writers subtly convey the symbology of Pandora's box and chaos onto a disposable and inconsequential character using appropriate language. Well done." Well done, Jamie Lee Curtis. Also, Jamie Lee Curtis writes in and says, "Beck, Burke, and Butch, 3 turds that won't flush." So very appropriate.
That's question of the week right now.
Juan Cabrera says, "Oi, MinnMax! I can't stop seeing the mothership from Independence Day every time I look up at the plates hovering over the slums." Yeah, well, that's our problem.
Fair enough.
I guess they're developing it when that movie came out in '96, so maybe. Although I think it released in Japan in '96, so maybe not. No, Japan '97. Anyways, Caleb Murray says, "I didn't." And this is talk about emotional beats, but Caleb Murray says, "I didn't see the junk dealer in Sector 5 or the playground area, so it doesn't look like he made it out." It's really hard.
Shame.
It's really hard.
Wait, who?
The junk dealer in the first section, the shop guy
That looks
looked
like
me?
Hanson.
You mean the deformed guy?
Yeah, he had an apron stuck to his chest.
Pasty white and
I was
glued on hair. It looked like, I don't know.
glued on. I was kind of bummed when so many people were alive from the Sector 7 slums. Like
Wedge got him out, man.
really?
Yeah.
Was that the idea?
Yeah.
You're just upset that Marley and her hairstyle is still around.
Well, it's Marl, and then like, oh, Weimer, you're around too. It's like I want to feel the consequence of that plate falling, and right now it's like, a junk dealer got his, and let's see who else was there. It's like, everyone that I know.
Fucking Chadley got out, so.
Oh boy, did he! I didn't see him around the time of the
Chadley
fall
got out.
either. I think he might have prompted Rude to do it.
Marco, big time dead.
Marco.
Yeah, Marco.
Which one's Marco?
Yeah, which
He's,
is
ne-
Marco.
he's number 49. How'd you guys forget?
Oh, wait for me. Wedge. Can I hold your hand, Wedge?
Marco.
Didn't even try and look for him.
No.
Okay.
Going out.
Justin says, when Chapter 13 opens up and Barrett is shouting, "Marlene, Marlene, Marlene!" I couldn't help but laugh at how over the top it was. And Ben Taylor says, for Bill Simmons's / the Ringer fans, it totally made me think of the Mark Ruffalo Award for overacting from the Rewatchables podcast. There's a funny segment on that podcast. The Marlene,
no.
Marlene thing, it made me think of Jolene, which I like as a song. But then it is that classic thing. And Beaton O'Brien even wrote in about this, about like the looking into the heavens and shooting the gun, like, wah, is a bit much, no?
Well, I guess I'm uncultured. I liked that performance, actually.
Yeah. How is one supposed to react when your kid is crushed by a
when your
plate?
daughter is, yeah,
Well-
and like obviously, like he's a person that reacts strongly
I hear you.
almost all the time. Like he's not going to be, this sort of quiet or like seething person. Like he's going to be outward. He's going to be exterior in how he expresses his feelings.
He's
Like,
going to shoot that gun. Carl Grenier says, the closest I've been to tears was the Barrett reaction after the plate fell. I guess the actor did a really good job because I was feeling his pain more so than watching Biggs and Jesse die in Cloud's arms. Yes, I hear you. It is that weird beat. And this was my main problem with Chapter 13 is it felt emotionally not consistent or even logically inconsistent with the idea of, Barrett was screaming, "Marlene, Marlene!" But like Aerith told him in the video when Sang the Turk had her in that video, she's like, "I got Marlene out."
I thought she said, "I found Marlene," but she didn't necessarily say that she was out.
That could be. You could be right. Yeah.
Also, Barrett has no idea who she is or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
And so,
That's true.
like, a random video of some white girl who he doesn't know say, "No, don't worry, your daughter's fine,"
I don't know what race
versus
has to do with it, but
seeing
yeah.
the wreckage of everything around him.
That's
yeah,
fair.
yeah. He would have no idea. He might have said, or Aerith might have said, "She's safe." Like that could have been the vocabulary that she used.
She had time to say something more, and she didn't really explain exactly what's going on. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
But she was also hanging out with a bunch of Shinra guys in the video.
so she
too,
couldn't
so,
say,
you
"Here's
know.
where she is." Yeah.
Well,
she was, like, stuck
and
against
as a
the-
reason, Barrett wouldn't, necessarily trust his
sure.
own- Look, he's not Kyle, okay?
Oh, finally we can talk about it. Thank
That's
God.
fair.
Uh,
That's fair.
I think, but in terms of like the inconsistency of this chapter, it was so weird in terms of there are weird moments where like Tifa thinks Biggs is alive, and there's a lot of just vague talk about like, oh, they were in a bad way. And Cloud like isn't explaining what he saw. Tifa isn't explaining what she saw. There's that weird bit where it's right after that where they're like, oh, Marlene's alive, and then he's like, where is she? And then Cloud just like walks away, and Barrett's like, what is going on? Will somebody tell me what's going on? And no one is just like sharing exactly the lay of the land in terms of who's alive, who's dead, where the living people are. Everyone's just like this awkward, disconnected conversation. It
Yeah.
drives me nuts.
Yeah, so I read the first half of like the stuff with him Cloud not explaining where Marlene is. I just don't understand what the hell's going on with that. But I read the conversation about Biggs and Jesse as Cloud and Tifa just kind of trying to spare Barrett's feelings at that point.
Oh, interesting.
Of just being like, they were looking pretty bad when we saw them, because they just didn't want to say, yeah, they're super dead right now, and it's going to crush you because you're the leader and you've already lost so much.
Right, and I also
So just
feel
kind
like
of giving
she
him that
then,
little bit of hope.
Yeah, and then I feel like he does then like look at Tifa, and Tifa just kind of gives us this sort of somber nod as like, yeah, it's like they didn't make it out, and I felt like he trusted that. The like the whole thing with Cloud is like Cloud was being like, yeah, I felt like Cloud was being a little bit cryptic in that, but then also like he was also acknowledging like, I don't know if this is the case, but if like my best guess is that she's here. And Barrett even says like I don't know, like I know you don't know, but God damn it, tell me if she's here. And then he's like, okay, I know that you can't tell me that because you don't know yourself.
Right.
So like I think Cloud could have been obviously like, in the space of like, I don't know, but this is probably where she is. He did say that, but I think he could have been a little bit more upfront. And I think maybe, is that what you're kind of speaking to, Ben?
I think so. Yeah, I think you got it. Yeah, in that scene too, I like Tifa really starting to blame herself. She's the one who's like, hey, we did this. And then Barrett's like, nope, like we cannot think like that.
Yeah.
Like we have to keep moving ahead. This is Shinra. They're the ones that actually hit the trigger to make that whole thing happen.
Right.
And then this is the scene that basically nobody mentioned, the scene with the other Sephiroth vision. What was your take on that?
You're going to have to remind me.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, maybe it was so
Yeah.
fast, but it's Cloud. I think he asked Tifa about ancients, and then Barrett's like, oh, you learn all about it in planetology. Dime a dozen, these ancients. And then Cloud has a little glitch, and then you see Sephiroth, and it's Sephiroth being like, the blood of ancients flows through me. And then there's a really cool scene where he's like, he looks at Cloud and he like touches him on the shoulder and he's like, through suffering, you will grow strong. And he's like, isn't that what you want? And then that's it. And then like, oh, the cool part is like, while Cloud's looking at Sephiroth, Tifa looks at Cloud and you get to see it from Tifa's point of view, where it's then very clear that Sephiroth is not there, that this is all in fact in his head, which we've kind of been talking about for the last couple episodes. Jeffem seemed to be under that assumption from the get-go and stuff, but yeah.
I was in the space of, I was just kind of happy that they were still continuing that line, because it's been quite a while since we've seen those sort of like flashbacks, and I'm glad they were still, like putting that trail of crumbs, at this spot as well. So.
Yeah. Dennis M says, being able to go back to Sector 7 slums after the plate drop just felt wrong. A whole residential area fell on that plate. You can still see the outlines of the slums and walk around there?
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, my perception of how thick the plate is and how much destruction it would have caused is apparently a little bit off.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I in the original you get the sense because it's like you just see that door where they come through. We're like right by the playground. It's just like that thick, and I imagine it was just that over everything. So the idea of well, the bar, it's not in great shape, but there's still you can find where the bar was. It's like this is odd.
It's like 50 feet of debris piled up everywhere.
Yeah.
I imagined that whole like Section 7 was absolutely annihilated.
Yeah.
And in this, it's just like it almost looks like we could rebuild this, which in the original I didn't think would be the case.
Yeah. Is this the part 2? No, that's later on. But it's nice in Sector 7 just seeing everybody helping each other. I feel like that's a nice little touch. Weimer hanging out under his slide, all that fun stuff. And then you end up going back to everyone's favorite collapsed highway section with like the return of that music, the like remix music where it was "Don't Give Up," like real quick in the middle of it over and over again. I was delighted to hear that music that everyone was complaining about return one more time. In that area too, when you're kind of taking the shortcut through the collapsed highway, there's like a tunnel and there's graffiti in the tunnel, and then in English it says, "Life can still get you down even after you've grown up." Just very wise words. Thank you, Final Fantasy VII. Okay, so I think it is in this section. I took the note here that they ask, "You think Wedge is holding up okay?" And they're like, "Yeah, you bet. Probably dreaming about his cats." So it's like this weird, again, just that disconnect of like, what? Didn't all that stuff land directly on his head? Didn't we watch basically a house worth of rubble crush him to death?
It sure looked like it.
Yeah, it gets back to the confusing thing of what's going on here, how much damage it's actually doing.
Right, yeah. Yeah, which then just makes me think like, God, is he being saved for just some sort of a strange plot device here?
Yes. Adam Moran says, playing as Barrett in the underground facility was a nice change of pace. When you catch up with Tifa, she says something like, I'm afraid to ask you, but... Oh, never mind. Hang on. She says something like, I'm afraid to ask, but did you just shoot your way in here? And he responds, well, yeah, but it worked, didn't it? He's such a lovable oaf.
Yeah.
I love that. Section 2, Tom wrote in to talk about how much he loved shooting the boxes along with so many other people. Beto Q92 says, I played in that hallway for about 5 hours going up and down the entire lab. Enemies and the boxes would respawn. I was using it to catch up on podcasts and to grind XP and to get high potions to sell. Am I crazy? Yes.
Yeah, you're crazy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, this was actually the first, I think, chapter. What is this? Chapter 13?
Yes.
Chapter 13 was the moment where like I turned the corner, for like how much I like Barrett.
Oh, interesting.
So far, like I've kind of found him to be just like too brazen, almost a little bit one-dimensional, and like this was. I feel like now he's becoming much more lovable. He seems much more dynamic, I guess, and we get to see like his reaction to the possibility of losing Marlene, but then also like the possibility of seeing Marlene again, and like how again like just how like emotional he is and just spontaneous. I'm really starting to like him.
Yeah,
and I felt like this chapter was just like a great highlight of how much he's changed.
Yeah, Beaten Down Brian writes in talking about that line where Cloud starts to inform him of Avalanche's fate. He says, they're in pretty bad shape on the pillar. And then Barrett just has an awesome line where he just goes, don't. He just says, don't. And Beaten Down Brian was just slayed by that performance. And I really like that line too, because then they talk about like, well, they've returned to the planet. And then Barrett's like, they're supposed to return to us. And it's a very nice, sweet moment. And then, I
absolutely, I loved that line.
Yeah, and then he's literally carrying Wedge, so it's a little bit on the nose. But then he's like, if we stop now, they'd never let us live it down. And he's like, so we got to carry that weight. And now I'll carry Wedge back through the slums. But going back to the underground lair, it is an interesting idea, and somebody wrote in about this as well. That like, is this the reason there were so many monsters in the slums? Is like this underground facility? Is that the reason there was that? I forget what the name of that section is in the Sector 7 slums, But there's an underground facility, and all of them are escaping and making freaky stuff happen here.
I
makes
think
sense.
that's great. I love that. That little tie-in.
Patrick O'Connor cannot get over these crates. He says, "Hey, small observation, but I've enjoyed that there are different Shinra crates depending on where you are. I don't think they're just worn looking into slums, but I'm fairly certain they're different designs. Older defunct boxes in the sewers, shiny new models on the pillar. I love the attention to detail. Time Bomb Tom wrote in talking about how in the train graveyard he loves all the boxes have the freaky ghost handprints all over them.
Right, yeah.
Very good boxes. It's still very satisfying to slice those boxes up.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is.
James Rodriguez says, after the brief moments where you get to control characters not named Cloud Strife, do you wish that the game would give you more opportunities to control the other party members for extended periods of time? Controlling Aerith and Barrett for a bit was a real nice change of pace, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't wish that we could get an entire chapter where I'm just busting heads as Tifa.
I think if they did it more, the effect would be lessened. I think the sprinkling in makes it feel different enough where it feels like it's special every time.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we might have an opportunity in the future to actually play as Tifa. I'd actually be surprised if we wouldn't play as Tifa
in this game.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you could be right. I love the music in the Underground Lab too. It's one of those that really grew on me, and I really love it. Even the battle variant of it. Old Scotland says, by far the coolest moment for me in the game, in the entire game. I love this that he points it out, is when Tifa and Barrett are battling the failed experiment, which is kind of the freaky xenomorph things. Yep. And Tifa is knocked off the walkway above only for Barrett to catch her by the feet and throw her back up. I think I did a small fist pump of appreciation at that one. Old Scotland, you are absolutely right. But not only that, there's a small moment leading into that was just like one of those moments where it's like, I need to stop and appreciate how well produced this game is and how incredible it is. And it's just in the middle of the fight, Barrett says like, oh, they're coming through the vents. And it's like this quick cutscene, and I was controlling Barrett in the fight. Then cuts back, and they have me assuming control of Tifa. You run over to the stairs, and there's not a second of pause. Right when you touch like the stair, like the stairway, like the ladder going up, or the stairs going up, I should say, you start to do that leap, transitions to a cutscene, and then continues that leap in the cutscene as she runs up, and then that's when she gets blocked off, and then Barrett throws her back up on there. But it's just like this incredible seamless transition into and out of combat that is just beautifully done.
I feel like also that like this game has knocked it out of the park by expanding the relationship between Tifa and Barrett.
Yes.
I love their sort of their friendship, their dichotomy that they have together. I think it's awesome.
Yes, absolutely. And this is a good section just to highlight that. Like, get Cloud out of the way. Every once in a while, let's really focus on these two. Old Scotland says, also, I love Tifa's Star Shower ability. I never get sick of using it.
Yeah.
That's the one. I love it, too, because the animation's so good, because she does that little, like, pump up and then just lets her rip.
She's still my favorite, like, person to control. She feels so tight. She feels just like once you press square, it feels like Dark Souls. Like
Tifa is Dark Souls?
Well, just like as soon as you press the button, like you get an immediate response. Like there's no I love controlling her.
Yeah. Do you guys think that that shower she keeps talking about at the end of combat, do you think that's the Star Shower?
Do we got any more comments?
Can you cut?
Do we need to cut? Do we need to let you think about it for a while?
Hang on.
He's rubbing his face aggressively. I think too much about it, but the fact that I've heard her say, I could use a shower 400 times at this point, it's like,
really wants a shower.
What if you just took that as canon? Like, if every line a character says in the game, which is the way it should be, is canon, is she insane? Is she an insane person?
Well, she hasn't gotten to take a shower this entire time.
Okay, well then you can mention that twice. But the idea that she's
like you say, like you're to the point where like Cloud's just like, no, we know. Like,
he's like,
we get it, and then like it's like 9 hours later, and she's still doing it, and nobody's saying anything about it anymore.
Yeah, so Cloud's like trying to fight a little bit closer to Barrett, just like working his way over to him and be like, Barrett, what is this? Why does she keep talking about this? I don't think she's.
Come on, use the shower, guys.
Do you guys think she? Did you tell her she smells? I don't know why this is in her head.
She's got it ignored.
Also, nobody wrote in about this sequence at the end of this, which was interesting and bizarre. Where Barrett like blows the hole into the underground thing, and then there's all those test tubes down there, kind of vats, and then Cloud has a glitch. Do you remember this, Jeffem?
Vaguely.
Interesting. It's pretty quick, but it's a really interesting scene where there's all these vats with humans in them. Cloud has a glitch. Some things are shown. And then Cloud's like, this is the Shinra I know, which is a nice idea. Like the one Shinra I know are the one that love putting humans in vats.
Right.
And then the weird part there,
Lots of humans in tubes.
can't get enough of them. But the weirdest part then is the ghosts come back and they like, woo, like rush you out of there. It's like a swarm of them come out and then bring you back out of the underground lab.
As if to say, not yet.
Oh, naughty boy, not yet.
They have to make the storyline happen, but they also want to avoid spoilers for you.
Oh, these ghosts are
until you get
really
there, so-
complicated.
Yeah.
Hey guys, seriously, what's up with those ghosts?
Man, I don't know. You know what I think about more so that I can't remember exactly like why I'm thinking about this right now, but like somebody had mentioned, maybe it was on a comment or maybe when I was talking to one of you guys about this, but like you remember that last what was it? Cloud was like had this the tear moment.
Yes.
He saw something
Easy.
probably that he saw something that like happened in the future.
Well, not in that moment.
Maybe.
Well, this is impossible. But what are you getting at then?
But like it just like goes. It's further evidence that like the game is playing around with the original story.
And the fact that Aerith in the sewers says nothing's written in stone.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's kind of and like the ghosts just like wrap around in that whole theme in some way.
But don't you think that the ghost being in that... I'm going to pop a bubbly. And I'm going to pop a kickflip too. Hang on. And done. But don't you think the ghost being in that underground lab makes them closer to Marco? My original idea is that they're just like the evolved form of that storyline.
Nah.
No Marco relation.
Well, like that would be really interesting, but then I feel like it would lend itself to just like, well, then the ghosts are just like Sephiroth's will.
Yeah. And he loves cats, so he wanted to keep Wedge alive. Oh, wait, no, he wanted him to die.
Now
but...
it makes sense.
I don't know. He's got the cat eyes. Anyways, chapter 14. Ladies and gentlemen, let's crack open this book. Chapter 14, you're back in Aerith's house. And I love this scene too, because it's like them trying to convince Elmira how effed up Shinra is. And the Cloud even says at some point, he's like, especially that son of a Hojo. He's like, we're all just numbers and meat to him.
Finally.
Because she doesn't want you to go rescue Aerith. And she's probably still pissed about the idea that Cloud went back on his promise to actually stop talking to Aerith overall. But what was your takeaway from that scene, Jeffem?
Yeah, no, that was good. I like that. It played out nicely.
Are you okay?
Are you saying that it was foreshadowing something, or
no? I don't know. I'm just talking about that entire opening of chapter 14. I was hoping you'd take us in a new direction, but that's fine.
the part that I liked more about that was the conversation between Barrett and his daughter when she basically says, "Okay, you can go," because I think he agrees that he's going to come back or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Barrett just says, "She's stronger than me."
That is nice.
That was a nice moment and a nice kind of encapsulation of who he is as a character. He's just a big softy ultimately.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved the waking up in the middle of the night and having that weird feeling of, where am I supposed to be going? But just, I loved the mood of waking up in Aerith's house, like in the early morning, middle of the night, and just like, where is everybody? And then just wandering around and eventually going outside and then it kicking off that amazing sequence. Ronnie, what was that sequence like for you?
Oh my gosh, like when I saw her like walk downstairs,
Who?
I just like Aerith.
Incorrect. I got Tifa.
I had Aerith.
Jeffem?
What the hell scene are you talking about?
This Cloud went out and had a conversation.
Wait, hang on a second. What you? When you got up,
Yes, Willie relax. Are you stop swallowing the camera? Willie Aguilar wrote in and said, "Did you guys know that there's 3 different options for who Cloud sees in the garden in the start of chapter 14? I got Aerith, but you can see Tifa or Barrett. Aerith's scene hit me right in the feels, and I rewatched it. So it's basically the date thing of if you really push it with Barrett, you can have a scene with Barrett out there from the original game. I mean by the date thing." Or you can have Aerith or Tifa.
Wait a second. So you had Tifa?
I had Tifa, and everybody else had Aerith, and Jeffem apparently had falling asleep on the couch.
I think I had Tifa.
Good man. Yeah, it's just like small choices, like who you woke up first, things like that. Throughout the game,
I woke up Tifa first, but I got Aerith in the scene.
I guess you're showing her enough sunshine outside of that. Ronnie,
I tried not to.
I feel like Aerith's. I can't imagine missing that moment.
I love Tifa, and it was a good scene where it was Tifa talking about like the flower that you gave her. She's like, "You got that from Aerith, right?" And then she's like, "I tried to keep the flower alive, and it died just like everybody else." And then like she starts bawling, and Cloud like gives her an uncomfortable hug, and then Tifa says, "They took everything from us again, Cloud." And so it's like a nice bonding moment, and I really enjoyed it, but the way people...
that also sounds very important.
Yeah, but the way people are writing in about this Aerith stuff blows my mind. So what is it?
Much bigger.
Yeah.
What is it?
So the big thing there was like Aerith said that like no matter what happens, like I'm so happy that I got to meet you. You can't know how much that means to me, but no matter what happens, you can't fall in love with me. And Cloud says, "Do I even get a say in this?" Which blew my goddamn mind. But I mean, just like both that that Aerith is saying you can't fall in love with me. B, that Cloud is acknowledging that there probably is feelings there.
Yeah.
Like it just blows my goddamn mind. That was my favorite scene, bar none, in the last 5 chapters.
Andrew Burns can one-up you. Andrew Burns says, "I don't know if I've ever had a scene in a game get to me like the Aerith scene from chapter 14. So
I mean, to me, that was like foreshadowing then the whole next game. I mean, essentially, and like, man, this is probably going to happen here, and I don't know, like, I don't want to say too much, but I am so excited.
And Jeff, you got Wedge, right?
Honestly, Hanson reading the what Tifa said didn't ring a bell either, so I don't know what I was doing out in the garden. I must have ran the wrong way and talked to no one.
Elmira, you up for a quick chat?
There was a weird anthropomorphic cat out there.
Oh no! Get away from the cat!
Yeah,
Don't talk to the cat. Oh, he's reading your fortune. It's looking real good, real good. So I don't get it. So it was a dream with Aerith, or she teleported, or what's going on? What was the context for how she was there?
It was a dream.
Oh, I see. And dreams aren't real?
Yeah, well, he said, I think even Cloud says, like, "Is this a dream?" And then she said something like, you decide.
Fuck you.
I guess it's a dream.
Adam Moran says, "Yeah, those flowers close up really look like
Yep.
Like they need to have a full frontal flower in that section, and it just looks like dog shit.
Yep. Hey, you remember the PS2?
We do. Oh. Guys, if we made this game, we could have made them look so much better.
All right, Ben.
So the leap was a bit much for me. I feel like I'm really negative on this section overall, and I'm sorry. I feel like I'm being persnickety. I still love the game overall, but do I feel like I'm being negative Nancy, picky wicky over here?
Not so far.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Well, you're getting there. I don't know. What are you going to say next?
Yeah, you're teetering right now.
I think it'd go a little something like this, everybody.
Oh, geez.
I think it's a bit of a stretch when Tifa is like, "We need to get to the top side. We need to get to the upper plate. There's only one way to do it. Let's go back to Don Corneo." I was like, what?
Let's go back to our old friend, Don Corneo.
I mean, I understand he's connected, But like, hey, how about you go fight more of those helicopter enemies and then just grab onto one of their legs and be brought up there, right? Like, it just seems like
There's not enough gas in that backpack.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, they talk about that.
Yeah.
Can you carry Barrett up there, please?
So in the original game, like you go back to that area, and so maybe they're trying to just connect it there in some way. But what did you guys think about that idea of getting Corneo specifically?
I was pretty disappointed that they cut the entire wall climbing sequence. That I know I'm jumping ahead, but to do it with a grappling gun.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't played, but I feel like that could still be coming.
You think so?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
No, I mean that is the wall climb up the avalanche graffiti section there. I think they just probably looked at the data on like the newer versions of Final Fantasy VII and realized that not a single person was able to get past that squeaky jump part onto that swinging part. Like it's just all analytics dropped off there, so they had to.
Really? Yeah, because I feel like 99.99999% of people could make it through that.
No, actually, I talked to them when I was there, visiting the studio for the Final Fantasy 15 cover story trip, and they told me that I was right. It's really weird.
So Hansen sucks at something that was in the original game. Is that my takeaway here?
Bing! Although on the stream, not too bad. I did it.
Yeah, not too bad.
Thank you. Tom wrote in and says, I definitely lost a little steam in Chapter 14 doing all the side quests. It felt like a big lull in the action, especially considering the urgency of what you were putting off to find orphans and chase down chocobos. Part of this may be my completionist tendencies getting in the way of my own enjoyment, but it definitely seemed to be more drawn out than the other areas with side quests. This is back to where we started the conversation, basically. Jeffem, how did you take this area?
Well, I spent like 4 hours doing pull-ups against jewels for some fucking reason. I could not. I was so stubbornly committed to finally beating that.
What do you get for it? Like, what was the carrot that was keeping you going back to that?
You get another champion belt, which is okay, and then you end up getting a trophy, Grant.
That's it. That's the trophy.
Horse. I'm not going back for it.
Do you have a save in that area, Grant?
What's that?
Do you have a save in that area?
Probably.
Okay.
Doesn't it says like on the tutorial menus or like the menus that just like if you skip something just at the end of the game you can skip to whatever chapter you need to go to.
Do they really say that? Oh, that's nice. Yeah, Chris Bartlett was asking if we did it. He said, God, it was so hard. I tried for 30 minutes before I decided it wasn't worth doing. The pull-up challenge. Also, Joe Juba says, hey, junk dealer in the high potions, if anyone else is struggling with the pull-up challenge, here's a tip that helped me. He says, go into the options and turn off the music and voices, but leave the sound effects on. That cuts out all the other noises and makes it easier to focus on the rhythm.
Oh, that's very smart.
Yeah.
I still don't understand how it connects with the rhythm at all.
It's a weird one.
Well, it's progressively it's progressively more rapid, right? And like you just like your time for error decreases as you go on, right?
Yeah, and which I just kind of had to slowly ramp up because it disappears from the screen. But in terms of her animations of doing a pull-up or like any of the sound that's going on, I didn't see any connection there.
Yeah. Tom also says, I missed a key materia reward that you receive at the end of Chapter 14 if you complete all the side quests, and had a save that was 3 hours back and did not feel like repeating those, so make sure you look around in the area before you exit Chapter 15. Don't be like me. Did you guys see that yet? It is apparently the second elemental materia in the game. So I didn't get the first one, so I'm very excited to get this and use it, and you only get it, it seems like, if you do all the side quests in that area. So it's very handy. Forrest Lastman says, I don't think enough was done to make returning to the towns interesting. Early on in the game, I felt like checking out every nook and cranny, but it felt like there was a lot less cool minor things going on in Chapter 14 when you're revisiting these areas.
I totally agree. I think that was my major complaint about Chapter 14 is like it felt like it was odd timing to go back to these places, but then also just like it didn't seem like the weight of what was going on was fully impressed upon me in the world.
Yeah. And I hear you. And it's kind of fun. They try and change it, but like, having Wall Market during the day. I think that's kind of interesting. And there's a moment I like to.
Oh, man.
Where you go into Wall Market and then Barrett's like, it's like, what are all these people doing here? And Cloud's like, they're jobs. Like, what do you want, man?
I texted Dave about this, and I texted Ronnie about this, and it felt so strange for me. It almost killed the wall market a little bit for me, seeing it during the daytime.
Really? It's like Las Vegas in the morning. Like, oh, what the hell?
It's disgusting. Yeah, I don't want to see wall market during the day. It's a seedy night town. I only want to see that at night.
Shanty town, like the roads are made of mud.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Without the neon and the glitz and the glam, it just kind of lost all of its luster.
Yeah, right. Which is kind of an interesting look at probably what wall market is actually like
in real life.
The daytime, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's kids there demanding music. It's just no. Kids don't belong here. It's for Chadley and me only.
Fred,
speaking of Chadley, did anybody Leviathan fight? Anybody do that?
People wrote in about it, so I went back to check it. Fat Chocobo is the last summon I can fight. How do I trigger more summon fights with Chadley?
I think you have to assess more monsters.
I have assessed everything. Maybe there are some of those battle intel things that I haven't quite finished yet.
So yeah, must be because
you would have to finish, because that's what happened for me. Is like I finished up to like 17, I want to say, and then Chadley's like,
because I'm in the same camp, Ben. Fat Chocobo was the last one for me as well.
Okay, yeah. Yarrow said that he spent an hour fighting Leviathan in Chapter 13 until he realized it was underleveled for him, and that tidal wave would one-shot me, and I was barely doing any damage. Did you try to fight him then, Ronnie?
Yeah. I actually, yeah.
You beat him?
Yeah, I beat him first try.
So you're calling Yarrow a coward?
Yeah, I am. Maybe she should just unsubscribe.
Thank you for helping all the time. Ricky Winterborn. People are not done complaining about this section. Ricky Winterborn says, I can't help but think that they were afraid of shipping a 25-hour Final Fantasy game and slapped a lot of these side quests and stuff on late in development. And Crypto Zookeeper said that it feels like side quests from like a 360/PS3 era RPG, and that he was sick of the find 5 more of these quests.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say that I hope this is the last Final Fantasy that have these MMORPG quests.
What do you think about specifically that 25-hour comment? I think that's interesting. I think people would have liked this game more if they trimmed out some of these side quests. I think by and large, write in and let us know. But it's just like they're scared of maybe the stigma of the fact that they're breaking it up and turning Final Fantasy VII into an episodic game. And if there are review blurbs where people say that it's too short because it's only 25 hours, maybe that would really piss a lot of people off. But I don't know. I'd be all for trimming this thing up a little bit.
100%.
Yeah, I don't think that starting out, I don't think I would have been there. At this point in time in Chapter 14, I think I would happily say goodbye to a lot of the side quests.
Yeah, and they do feel tacked on as a stretch, but it definitely feels like B Team or, obviously so much less production is going into it, but it was really striking here. Yeah. Just like, you find the Chocobo, going on the Chocobo quest, and it's like, oh, all of a sudden then one of those drakes drops down and just starts fighting you. It's like, okay, like no context for why? Sure. Or even just when you're underground and you find like the behemoth type 0. And like before that, there's just like text on the screen, like the roaring is getting closer. And it's like, what is this?
Yeah,
like this level of production is so weird.
That was, very strange to me. But I also did really like that fight though.
I did too.
I love it. Yes. So did Willie Aguilar. He said, is easily my favorite boss fight. But a guide said I needed the Mithril Sword from Wall Market. Oh, and he loved, it was my favorite boss fight because it felt very tactical without feeling unfair at all. And he loved that it had a Final Fantasy Type 0 reference with the name of it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
There was a Mithril Sword in Wall Market?
Yes.
Oh, damn it.
And I hate to tell you, Grant, it does look very cool.
Shut up.
It's the coolest looking sword in the game.
I've never seen a cooler sword in my life. And you fight Behemoth with it, and he says, cool sword.
Does the weapon dealer have it or what?
He must. Yeah, I guess so. I think that's what it is.
No, I think you have to get it from the ghost of the junk dealer.
Oh,
thank you for bringing me, Cloud. Willie, that Behemoth fight I thought was cool too. Like going back down to that area was a little bit like, okay, okay, game. But then like hurting his back, hurting his front.
Hang on,
his
wait,
and his crack. Yeah.
I just realized, like, we haven't acknowledged that this game, like, this game has made a significant. It zigged when we thought it would zag.
How so?
Come again?
When we went down into the secret Shinra lair.
Yeah.
Like that's not in the game at all, or in the original.
Right.
That is a completely new area. I mean, like that to me was like the first time that just like, wow, this is all very new stuff. I feel like we just needed to. I feel like I needed to highlight that.
Yeah.
It's like this is the first time this game has like done something drastically new with the story.
Hang on. I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, in terms of like just
a whole
inventing,
chapter of going down to like a underground laboratory, that did not happen.
I understand that didn't happen. I'm trying to think if it's the biggest departure so far. It's an interesting take.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, there's like fleshing out areas, and you forgot about Chocobo Sam.
I would say Wedge living instead of the.
But even so,
lab.
like, that's so up in the air right now.
Oh, he's alive and well, Dave.
Yeah, he's dreaming about hamburgers as we speak.
We don't know. He might have eaten that pillow.
Hamburgers.
I did like talking to Chocobo Sam after the plate fell, and he's like, "That plate scared my birds. My beautiful birds. They're panicking. They won't eat my Gristle greens. They won't haul me around." That's a terrible Samuel.
Can't sleep without my birds.
I sleep on my birds and in my birds. You thought they smell bad on the outside. Dennis M says, "Can we get an update on who?" This is dumb. Oh, my beautiful bird.
Where are my birds?
Take me to my birds, clown.
Patreon numbers plummeting right now.
Sorry, we'll save.
We hit the bottom of the deepest dive.
We'll save
We're on the
mumbling about
seabed,
birds
folks.
for the bonus episode.
I got 0 subscribers.
They're called patrons, you idiot.
I'm sure people are gonna be offended.
Okay.
Patrons.
Dennis M writes in, and he says, "Can we get an update on who Ronnie thinks the angel of the slums is?"
It's Aerith. All that.
Sean
Yeah,
Mills,
well, I'm wrong about a lot of things.
Sean Mills says the angel of the slums is just a weird old lady with an annoying granddaughter. I wish
Yeah, pretty much.
there was a renegade option to turn her into the reporter. Great. Now we string her up. Yes. Eric Reed says the best dialogue in the game has to come from Morel. Is that how you pronounce her name? I forget. By the way, Ron, she is the angel of slums. In chapter 14, when she tells her granddaughter, quote, "Learn to wipe your own ass before you start rooting around in other people's
Yeah, I did really like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a doozy.
I was alarmed. Kyrie, is that how you pronounce that name?
I hated it.
The pronunciation was a bit
bad.
much, yeah. But I was.
Kyrie.
She was
Is that it?
a little over the top, something like that, yeah. But I was annoyed that she was in the church. I'm like, you don't belong here. Get out of this church. This is a holy place, lady. But she didn't listen.
I agree.
Thank you.
I finally got that chakra material you
Yeah,
guys were
me
talking
too.
so much about.
Oh, really?
Thank God.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think
changes everything.
Yeah.
Craig McShaffrey wrote in and said, "Don't hate on chakra. It has a quicker cast than Kira/Kiraga, costs no MP, and since its an ability, it can be used if silenced. So stop hating."
Oh.
I won't.
See, that's somebody that's smarter than us.
He's the regular Chakra Khan over here.
Go on.
Travis wrote in.
Oh wait, our Patreon numbers are in the negative now.
Oh, we're like,
We owe Patreon 100 subscribers.
Travis McGaughey wrote in and said, "Been playing through a second time. Congratulations, Travis." He says, "And I noticed Kyrie, I'm sorry, I think that's her name, in both Chapter 2 on the train and in Chapter 3 in the slums outside Tifa's bar. She definitely stood out because her name came up as question mark.
Oh, interesting.
I remember
didn't
seeing
know
that person on the subway of like, what is this question mark lady? But it's fun that turns out she was there the whole time. Andrew Vala said, "Did anybody else think that Kyrie was Yuffie in disguise?"
Yes.
Did you really?
100%. Like, it just seemed like that's the perfect archetype of Yuffie.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I forgot to mention, I like the point too when you go back to Wall Market, and I think you like go by the Honeybee Inn, and they're talking about Corneo, and then Barrett's like, "What? Did you guys get intimate with him or something?" And Cloud just goes, "Don't recall." Just like really, it's like this beautiful flat delivery. That was really great.
There's also the moment where if you go to the Honeybee Inn and you talk to the receptionist guy, he's like, "Hey, are you gonna dance again?" And he just goes, "No."
You know he wants to though. Aerith was right. He loved it.
Does.
Oh, by the way, Ron, I sent you that clip of Aerith having the like awkward reaction.
I absolutely. Maybe that's probably the reason why I chose her over Tifa.
Because of her.
It was so good.
She has a weird reaction too when you're in the sewers and they're talking about how Abzu likes eating bones or whatever. And she has this weird reaction where she pauses for a beat and then she goes, "Ooh." She like neighs like a horse. It's really odd. It's cool.
Yeah,
though.
I remember that.
Fred DeNovo says in chapter 14, the guy who gives you the song "Good Night Until Tomorrow" during Betty's music side quest looks a lot like Uematsu, apparently. It's a fun detail.
Oh.
I didn't know that.
Well, that's fun.
Brian W. says, are Betty and Marlene long-lost twins? Yeah.
It was kind of fun that, like, we just, like, got acquainted with, like, one of Marlene's friends. You know, and she asks, she's like, "Is Marlene okay?" I like that.
And thank God it's not Denzel from Advent Children. That could have been a Denzel role. Like, that is tailor-made for Denny Boy.
You're totally right.
Yeah. What do you guys think about having the Six Flags guy dance to the music?
Honestly, my favorite part of the game.
Made it all worth it.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the good stuff. Let's roll up our Final Fantasy sleeves here, Jeffem. Willie Aguilera wrote in and he says, what did you guys think of the Tonberry side quest?
Oh! Thing was tough, man.
Yeah. Jeffem, did you have a tough time with that little bugger?
Yeah, that was a fun surprise.
Oh, good.
The first time I was going up, he seemed real slow, so I was just laying into him with Cloud, and then it's like, oh, okay, he can apparently insta-kill me.
Just one quick knife shot. And it's so weird in like an action game. He must have been in 15. I didn't get to a point where I saw him.
I don't remember that. I mean, he must have.
Okay.
It's weird. I played the entire game, and I don't remember a single second of it, so I'm afraid I can't help.
It's so sad. A lot of players out there. It's a cool game. But yeah, it was that weird thing of like, how do I deal with this guy? Like, it turns out, and Joe Joba even was recommending it as well, but it's like just switch who your primary character is. If they're in danger and the Tonberry's coming really close to them, just like switch away, and then the Tonberry will always focus on whoever you're playing. So you can kind of game them like that, and you won't get a quick knife in your throat real quick. He's fun.
Does he do 9999?
I think he just auto kills you from what I saw. It just seemed like a death thing. Yeah,
I didn't remember seeing like an amount that he did, but he would always kill anybody immediately.
Yeah. Jordan Brown says, hello, Chadley support group. I was extremely surprised how much I ended up liking Leslie. At first I was thrown off by his weird design, but I ended up feeling for him and understood why he would help you go after Corneo earlier in the game. It's probably my favorite new side character so far. And Jim Bluebellow also agrees that he loves Leslie. I was amazed that we gave Leslie his due the last discussion. Like, I liked him. And then in this one, I liked him a little bit less. I didn't need that backstory. It's like, I liked him as kind of like a very subtle character, and now maybe it's because I felt like 14 was dragging so long, I wasn't on board for it.
You're a monster.
Maybe.
Yeah, I kind of had the same feeling about it, where I do
You're
like
also
Leslie.
a monster running.
Yeah, well,
I liked Leslie, but I hate that little asshole that steals his key, or excuse me, his locket, whatever the hell it was.
Yes. Chris Bartlett says the little chase sequence with the pig monster was the first time the game really seemed to just be filling time. It was pointless. He could have dropped the necklace at some point and then had to explain what it was about, or they could have made the chase a lot shorter jaunt. That might be my least favorite section of the game just because of how unnecessary it felt.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's so silly, and I was like, okay, well, this could be trimmed. But then at the same time, as I was doing it, I was like, well, this feels like something that could have been in the original Final Fantasy VII. Like, I like the goofiness, I like the lighthearted nonsense in 7, and it feels like something that could have easily been in there, even though it wasn't.
This was the Yuffie chase,
Mm.
right?
Okay, sure. Pseudonymous. By the way, real quick. So the idea was that Leslie was engaged to this lady, but then she was chosen to be Corneo's wife, and she just went. Was it like involuntary, or what was the idea there?
Correct.
Yeah.
Couldn't she just run away instead of this life of imprisonment or getting eaten by an Abzu?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like you'd be making a lot of assumptions to say that it's better to run away.
You're saying Corneo might be an okay husband?
Well, you have to give him a chance.
Right, I understand. Pseudonymous.
No, but you don't know. Like, obviously, I guess in my own sort of headcanon, like, it doesn't work if just Corneo has this I want 3 different people every day, and then they always disappear all the time. Like, I feel like there has to be like a backstory about just like where these people go, what happens to them. That I don't know. Like, it just never mind.
Okay, no, that's fair.
For a man who gasses women, has a torture dungeon, and a hole that drops you to a flesh-eating monster, I think it's safe to assume where people go when he's done with them.
Right. No, I'm saying, I'm aware of that. What I'm saying is, like, what does the public know? You know what I mean?
Right. They just think
to just say that this guy just lives in tyranny, and everybody knows that the women go off and then they get eaten by Abzu. Doesn't make any sense to why anybody would stick around ever, right?
Yeah. I'm amazed that realizing now how quickly we've adapted to new pronunciations. We were outraged in Dirge of Cerberus when they called her Yuffie, which I know is confusing if you haven't played the original game. We're sorry for making that reference. But we got used to it. Mako, we've been calling it. Corneo instead of Don Corneo? I think I used to call him before. It's
right.
We have
Corneo.
We have all made that adjustment. Even we call her Aerith, and by and large, we're not even noticing it anymore. Isn't that amazing how much this remake has drilled the new pronunciations into your head?
It has. I'm still I still feel like I'm very much aware of it.
Oh, really?
And I'm still fighting it quite a bit. I feel like.
You can see it on your face, your pained black and white face. Pseudonymous Joe says, anyone else find it kind of jarring when Leslie pulled out a totally normal-looking handgun to threaten Dawn with? Barrett has a Gatling gun for an arm, and it takes him 1,000 rounds to take down a rat. How much damage could Leslie's pea shooter possibly do? That entire scene was so bizarre. It was Dawn ooh, tell me more. Ooh, what's this? And then he sneaks up with a pistol. It just felt like a scene out of a modern film or something. It was so bizarre to see them wrestling over a gun. I was like, what is this? This is not Final Fantasy VII in my mind.
Yeah, I totally agree. But then it just goes back to just what does a bullet do?
Right.
In this game,
For the purpose of the story, I think what else would you have him carry that could be concealed and be deadly? I think I'm sure they had to talk about it a little bit, but I think the choice that they made makes the most sense, I guess.
Yeah, he should have just summoned Knights of the Round or something. Steven Herrera just says that he thought the sewers were the worst part of the game, that Leslie's story lacked a real punch. Rory Sublet says, when you start in the sewers, you finally have 3 characters again, but now everybody has beefed up weapons with a bunch of materia slots, it almost makes you feel sorry for the bad guys. That is the upside of all this backtracking, is that idea of, okay, now I really get to just slay these fools. That's very satisfying.
Right, yeah.
Everything but the jumping turtles.
Yep. Patrick Henderson, though, says, I want to take a second to praise the Toad gameplay in this game. I got turned into a toad in the sewers and was amazed at the detailed animation. Then I found out I had this tongue lash melee and a bubble blowing range attack and even an ability called leapfrog. All of these detailed animations that fit right in the battle fluidly. Now that is dedication to the craft. Golf clap, he says. Yeah, and the fact that Barrett has all his limbs, somebody was noting, and apparently Tifa, if she turns into a toad, has a skirt. It's just absurd.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
I didn't notice that. I did notice that you can still use items. Which I absolutely love, because then you can give yourself a maiden's kiss to get you out of that.
Yeah. What do you think that item is? Is just big novelty candy lips?
Yeah, that you have to smooch.
Yeah.
Wax lips. Yeah.
Wax lips, yeah. Is in this scene too, in chapter 14, there's an interesting moment where they're talking about oh, Cloud, you're a good guy now. And Tifa had a line that stood out to me where she's like, you're a pretty nice guy. I didn't see it when we were kids. Like, you just assume that Tifa is fully on Cloud's side, but I just love that little plot detail of her being like, I was a little iffy on if you're cool as a kid, even.
That's really interesting. I feel like I do remember in the original game where I felt like there was some sense that they were not friends.
Really?
Growing up. Yeah, or that they were like more. I feel like
like before the water tower scene.
No, it was more exposition like later on where I feel like Tifa would spend all this time with the other neighborhood kids, and Cloud was never really a part of that crew.
Gotcha. Connor McCrackenflesher says, I've been looking back at the shock troopers, those dodging melee jerks, and I'm finding them more and more uncomfortable the more I look at them. Why are they completely sealed in tech suits? Why are they bent over all the time? Why do they have weird claw shoes? What are the canisters on top of their heads? Everything about them implies something weird is going on. Maybe Mako mutation? If it's explained later in the game, I don't want to know about it because this is the first time I'm going through the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they are
I
creepy.
think that's a great observation.
They are weird looking. Yeah, I don't know. I definitely am worried every time I see them, even though they haven't really given me too much of a problem. Craig McShaffrey says, to add to the running, quote, I didn't realize that was a quality of life shortcut button, leader option, etc. I didn't realize until the very end of Chapter 14 that pressing the center touchpad in battle brings up the assess screen of the enemies, both already assessed or the new ones. I've been reassessing this entire time. I was reassessing too. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. That's, yeah.
You blew it.
Yeah, that'd be tough.
Thanks.
I feel like
Thanks
I
for
got
trying,
into a mode of whenever I would revisit an area, I would always like immediately press the touchpad.
Oh, very smart.
I could remember the. Yeah.
Never touched it.
Really?
No.
Are you using a lot of assess?
Fair amount, but then I remember things.
You're a bit of an assess man. Anyways, James Rodriguez wrote in, he says, it wasn't until chapter 10/11 that I feel like I finally got the combat. A couple people wrote in like this. I initially felt that Aerith was useless on offense. It would only serve as a healer that I would constantly need to protect. But once I realized you could combine elemental material with ice or fire, it made her a much more valuable asset that could deal some pretty good damage to enemies. It was also when I started to make it a habit to reach 100% proficiency with each character's weapons. It almost got to the point where my least favorite character to play as is Cloud. And then Eric Reed says, putting Aerith with mana word and double bombing things with spells shows how much of a powerhouse she is. Two times Aga spells will crush almost anything in the game. I love Final Fantasy because you can say 2 times Aga.
I kind of got to this moment in the game where once Aerith was out of our party, I was like, well, who wants magic?
Me! I'll take her shoes!
And nobody volunteered. So I gave it to Barrett. And that still feels weird to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Somebody has an amazing idea. Darkfish Days says, I've basically turned Barrett into a damage-soaking sponge. I've upgraded the light machine gun with all the HP bonuses, equipped the champion belt, which increases HP 10%, applied the HP up, and provoke materia. I'm sure there's better ways to use Barrett, but I love it when Barrett provokes an enemy and then I can use Cloud or Tifa to beat them from behind. Isn't that a fun build?
You can use Steel Skin, too, to drop the damage even further.
Oh my god!
Yeah, and there's also that ability that it's like a pretty much just like a different provoke. I can't remember what it's called, but it's an ability.
Yes. Yeah.
To take damage from other people.
Right. I kind of want to change my Barrett build at this point because he's kind of like a weird backup healer. But I love just leaning into something this heavily because I haven't had a moment yet where I'm like, I need to go to Chadley to like redo all of my builds for my weapons. But if it'd be really fun to lean into those things a little bit more now that I have the characters somewhat locked down.
Yeah. I feel like what the game does pretty well is like allowing for weapons to have different builds.
Yes, absolutely. Somebody calls it like, horizontal design and stuff, which is a great way to look at it. Here, Ben Taylor is doing that recommendation of when you're in danger, just switch characters. He said that's really helped him.
Oh, yeah.
In all fights, because that'll change how the enemies are reacting to you. Adam Moran, what kind of materia combos are you rocking? Just a ton of different spells, anything special? What are you using Magnify with? And Mark Miller says that you should use Magnify plus Cure for the AoE heal, which I wasn't doing, and I feel like an idiot. I've been using like Magnify with Fire, I think, on Cloud, but now it's like, oh yeah, of course Cure with Magnify.
Actually,
I didn't think of that.
what I initially had was magnify and barrier, and so like that would be something that I would pop on. But then I found out that like most enemies are so dynamic that you don't know whether or not you should magnify barrier or mana ward.
Yeah.
So then I actually had that same thought of like this is stupid. Like just magnify cure.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I have magnify Curaga, and ever since I've done that, I've not had any problems in any fight.
I think
I'm an old school player, so it's basically all. So I just put it on here, because the Agas have a little bit of AOE in them too.
Right.
So if I happen to catch enemies close together, I still get that area of effect attack. But I put it on Kier instantly.
You guys are very smart. I think last discussion I said I was going to start messing around with the auto cure a little bit. I had that on in the beginning of the section, and then I had a moment where a character was just about dead. So I was like, all right, popping the seal, using my first mega potion, use it on him. And then she used auto cure. Aerith used auto cure on the character before the mega potion hit him. I was like, all right, now auto cure is out of the rotation. I will never go back to it again. It has burned me so bad.
Yeah, did you uninstall the game?
I uninstalled the game.
First mega potion?
Yeah. Like chapter 10 or something.
Really? How is that possible?
Really? Yeah, I'm very conservative with items in Final Fantasy games.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't use any items pretty much.
Oh,
what are you guys talking
they're faster than spells. I probably used 35, 40 mega potions at this point.
What?
Yeah.
I feel like I've been scraping butt bottom with money. How are you guys having all this money to buy all these items?
Oh, I'm flush with money. I don't spend that on anything.
I guess I don't buy mithril swords because I'm dumb and I don't stop at the weapons vendor again.
You're right. You can also get a part-time. Cloud can get a part-time job giving HJs. Walmart get.
It pays.
The finest.
Man's got to eat.
Oh, Grant, gross.
That's what he always says. He says, man's got to eat.
Nate McClellan wrote in. He says, "Can I complain? Can Nate complain?"
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. He says, "I really don't like it in RPGs when you get cool magic like slower stop, and then the enemies you want to use it on, like bosses and the like, they're immune to it. Final Fantasy VII Remake has this all the time.
I feel like that's literally every RPG.
It's very frustrating.
Ever.
I hear you. And it's like, I want to use it, or even like stuff like death. It's like, oh, cool, I want to use it, but I know it's just not practical in any way. And they keep, even to a lesser extent, they keep throwing poison materia at me. And I'm like, I'm good. I don't think it's going to be great. I'm
sure, and again, there are going to be those bosses that it is going to be like, oh, well, you should use poison. But the only reason why you would use that is if you've been trying poison on every boss.
Yes. Yeah.
99% of the time, it's not going to work.
Right. I was excited to try enemy skill this time. Like, oh, maybe that'll be a build of my enemy skill character. I didn't understand how it worked. Did you guys mess around with enemy skill at all?
I did.
Is that a Chadley joint?
Might be. Yeah.
Then I don't have it.
I'm not sure where you get it. I got one skill from it, and it seemed like I was just awarded it at the end of the battle.
But then where is it? Because it keeps saying like, oh, learn the skill. I was like, great. And then it's not in the abilities list.
Once you learn it, it will be under your abilities if you have that material equipped.
In like the next battle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, from then on.
Weird. I wonder how I missed that. I mean, there's a lot of abilities. They're really starting to stack up there. It's like, which one is Atifa's the striking thing versus I get kind of a lot of them confused there. Never mind. Yarrow says the pedometer materia you get in Aerith's house at the beginning of chapter 14 becomes the AP up materia after 5,000 steps.
Yeah.
It doubles AP gains on link materia. I got the steps easily while doing the side quests. It was amazing that, the side quest I wasn't crazy about in any game really, but having that simple treadmill in front of me, I was like, oh, I'm kind of into running around now. Now I really want to see what's going to hatch out of this egg, and it seems like it's a good reward. I like having AP up.
Yeah, same thing. I really enjoyed that. But like, no matter what would have popped up, like I feel like AP up, I was like, oh, AP up. I don't know, like what would make me feel, vindicated for that.
Yeah, maybe another elemental or something. But Swanky Orc says, I hope everyone took the time to complete the Coliseum challenges. Did everybody go do that?
I did not.
Oh no, Grant, you're in chapter 15, right?
Yes.
Ronnie, do you still have time to go do it?
I still have time to go do it. Yes.
They're pretty quick. You can really kick their ass, and that's how you get the second limit breaks and more of those SP books. Yeah.
There's
multiple tiers.
That's a shitty place to hide those.
It is. Yeah. It's pretty tucked away in there.
100%. I'm going to, and yeah, they are. That's the worst. I thought I just kind of thought that there was just not going to be other limit breaks because in the other game it's just like, well, you just have to use them so many times. And I thought well, it's probably not going to happen.
Jeff, you're a systems man, right?
Sure.
What do you think about this? Adam Dominguez has an interesting hypothetical. He says, do we even need level ups in this game? What's the point of everyone having their own level if they always will be within 2 levels of each other? We're already powering up and customizing our characters through weapon upgrades and materia growth. Levels, Jerry! Ditch the levels, he says.
Yeah, what does leveling up even do?
It just seems just increases all stats a little bit, but it does feel, it's nice to level up. I love it happening, but it is that thing of like, there's so many other ways to progress in this game that it does feel unnecessary in some ways, right?
I guess it's just kind of a background boost. You get more strength and a little more HP and Bob's your uncle.
Do you get SP from that too?
Ooh. Maybe.
Yeah, you do. You get 5.
Oh, okay. There we go. Thank you for knowing that number, Ronnie. Hey, music. Still sensational. Nick L says,
100%.
Music time. 2 quick things I wanted to point out. The music theme in Chapter 11 has the Turks theme inside of it as well, which is a nice touch. I love that. There's like little nods to it in there. And then Nick says, the moment Jesse dies, there's a single note held by a woodwind made to sound like an EKG machine flatlining, and it was really well done. That's amazing. I didn't notice that, Nick, but you're a smart person.
I didn't notice that.
I did notice when you go back to the playground area, they hold that note again, which is fun. But,
really? Oh, okay.
I think so, yeah. Joshua Devon says, the music as you're approaching Sector 7, just before the Eligor fight, is incredible. It has a combination of many themes from many of the tracks, such as the bombing mission and the Shinra theme. It's kind of like the medley. Joshua also says, who else is wishing Barrett would keep his shades off? His face is spot on under there. Yeah, it's true.
I agree.
Joe Halaska says the minor key version of Tifa's theme when you get back to Sector 7 and find the destroyed Seventh Heaven was amazing and moving.
Yeah, it was. And that like, I think I said this last time, it's like, these guys are so good at putting a different tone on these tracks that we love that I think even moving forward, I have all the confidence in the world that they'll figure out ways of making these tracks just new every time.
Yeah. Keenan Harrell says, has anyone checked out the official soundtrack? I don't know if it's out yet. I remember looking at it a while ago and saying it was going to take a while, but apparently it's 8 discs and it's 180 tracks.
Oh my God. Well, okay.
What?
I looked for it today.
Yeah?
I need 1 disc and 1 hip hop chocobo remix, and I'm good to go.
Hip hop the chocobo. Boy. Joshua Wiljanin says, I like how the multilingual signs and mentions of Wutai give you a sense of the larger world while being confined to Midgar. # short comment. Thank you, Josh, for # short comment. You saved me a lot of time today. But yeah, it does do a good job of, foreshadowing and just seeding that idea of there is a larger world out here, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And again, that's the thing that I always think about with this game is like they've done such a great job expanding this little bit. What is the rest of this world going to look like?
Yeah. Old Scotland asked, does anyone ever sell anything back to a vending machine? I'm one of those players who hoards 20 of every item just in case I ever need that impossible boss that requires it, but I can't imagine anyone ever thinks it's a necessity to sell these 4 additional high potions for 400 gil. I've sold a lot of stuff for a while, just to try and pick myself up off the bottom, because I'm always scared of running out of ethers. That's always number one fear.
I don't understand. Like, you've never used a mega potion in your life, yet you don't have any money.
At the start of this chunk, I hadn't used a mega potion.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've used them now a decent amount. But yeah, I've been having a tough time with money. I don't know what I'm doing differently from everybody else.
I've had that problem too up until I feel like chapter 14. Like I noticed that I have like 17,000.
Yeah. How many times have you gone back to Madam M's?
Well,
me?
No, Ben.
Just a couple. I just wanted to see if there's any variants because I'm capturing the gameplay for the video version, so I wanted to make sure I know all the options and different things like that. Somebody did write in, by the way.
Why were you there until 3 a.m.?
Because I thought it was like an Animal Crossing thing. I thought it might change depending on the time of day, like when's the store open, what are these bells going for, Madam M's turnips.
Ben, why were you crying during it though?
Oh, because I was curious if it was like kind of like a PT thing where I would like pick up the sounds from the mic, that just uncontrollable sobbing.
Ben, why did Madam M ask you to leave?
Well, it was interesting. She said apparently dignity has its limits, and I didn't see that coming. But the writing in this game is spot on.
She mentioned that she had calluses.
Somebody wrote in saying that she reminds them of Lulu from 10, which I hadn't thought about, but totally. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Eric Merrill says, can we do a hair ranking? I mostly hate Reno's short spiky top with a super long ponytail. Best hair, worst hair?
I feel like best hair Cloud.
It is still very fun to look at, isn't it?
Do you also feel like Tifa having 6 foot long hair, and she keeps it very shiny, very clean? She must shower a lot.
Yeah, because her hair is so long, it's just grody. It's dragging on the ground, so it's just covered in dirt and Wall Market juice.
Could really use a shower.
Shut up, Tifa! We gotta go save Aerith!
I'm in the rude camp, personally.
Oh, okay. He's wearing a hat, ladies and gentlemen, but he's got a real rude head under there. All right. Rory Sublet says, I like to keep the... All right, this is tough. What's going on? I like to keep track in RPGs when I pass the 24-hour mark, but for me, it was around chapter 12. Interesting. Also, I like to note that the most damage I've done with a single attack is 6,002 on the failed experiment. Also, Reno sounds like cereal. That's very helpful. I love that very specific thing. Yeah, probably around that much damage, too. Let's see. Justin Swartz says, what's your playtime at right now? And chapter 14. Yeah.
I did 9,999 damage.
Baloney. What are you talking about?
Actually, it was a summon.
Oh, you aren't the summon.
Doesn't count.
Was that Leviathan?
I think. Yeah.
Does not count.
Story's full of holes.
Yeah.
Full of
No, it's true.
Show us Leviathan right now.
Oh God, he's transforming!
Better not be picking up a cat.
It's transforming into a worse webcam.
Am I black and white? Am I not?
So Justin Swartz. Yeah, he says he's 35 hours in at the stopping point here. I think I'm 34.
Holy What is going on here?
I think I'm like 36 or...
What?
Grant, what kind of speedrun are you doing?
Grant's probably at like 14.
21 and a half.
What?
Yourself.
And you're doing side quests?
All of them.
No
Except for the
way.
pull-ups. It's the only thing I didn't do.
Are you looking at
Well,
walkthroughs?
there's like 6 hours right there.
I didn't do pull-ups. That's absurd. Is that just Dodge and Chadley?
No.
Dodge and Chadley.
I don't get it, man. That's crazy.
Yeah,
I talk fast. I attack fast. I don't know, man.
All right, buddy. James Knight says, Hanson, if you could manage getting Maximilian Dude for the final dive, it would be a real get. After seeing the Easy Allies spoiler mode, it seems like he could talk about the game for hours. I don't know who he is. I know he's got like a big following, but and his videos are always popping up for like his reactions to the trailers, but I guess we'll do more research. I'm looking forward to the Easy Allies spoiler mode once I finish this. I cannot wait to sink my teeth into all these spoiler discussions everywhere. And apparently he's a smart guy. I'm looking forward to it. All right. That's it. Final chunk.
That's it.
Next week. Let's do it. What are the lingering things? What do we expect to be resolved here? Jeff, it might be easier for you to talk about this.
I expect them to reveal why Reno is the adult version of Chucky.
You're in luck.
It's a big side quest now. It is weird that like it's been a while since we've thought about Roche. I mean, I think about him almost every waking second of every day. But
hey, me too.
Yeah,
that was gonna be my take too. That I expect Roche to come back.
And then also like the whole Wu-Tai sect of Avalanche. Like, is that coming back? What a weird thing to just kind of let hang out there.
Oh no, my camera froze at a horrible time.
No, you could get used to this.
No, I disagree.
Yeah.
It still looks better than yours.
Okay. I feel like the game is going to go in a direction where the next game is not going to be what we expect.
Interesting. Yeah.
I kind of feel like the way that the game is going now, like ultimately they can't have the same level of polish on the entire game or the entire original story as it is. So like I feel like I kind of feel like my guess for the ending is it's just going to be I don't know how to say this.
If you think you're going to spoil something, don't say anything.
No, it's going to be not what we expect. Even the old timers.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a new story moving forward after this game.
Yeah. Jeff, any predictions?
Everyone dies based on that question you just asked me. Now I know that everyone dies.
Whenever I ask you about somebody, it means they're doomed.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh,
I mean, I guess is the next section is getting Aerith back. And you said there's some kind of kinky twist coming up, so
Very kinky. And I hope it's very highlighted in this game. I want nothing but the kinky twist.
I'm just curious about how abrupt it's going to be. Like, when do they just, fade to black? Like, see you in 2028.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be just like this vista of just being like.
I think we've seen it.
They're gonna say the world's our oyster.
Ain't no getting off this train.
And then it's gonna fade to black, and then it's gonna say 2028. But Ben, like, what are your bold predictions for the end of this?
I was thinking about it. I'm scared to make bold predictions because YouTube
Why? I think it's super fun.
I agree, but I feel like people have been hinting very strongly in a couple directions. And it's seeped through the internet and hit me in comments or just reactions, stuff like that. And so I have a general framework. I don't even want to share that, but
gotcha.
I realized during this section, I was thinking about, like, you know what? Like, I've had such an amazing time with this game. Even if it completely craps the bed, I'm not saying that's not what people are saying, that I can see at least, But even if it completely craps the bed and just goes off the rails and is nutso, like, I'm on board. I'll say this right now. No matter what they do in the end of Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'm all on board and I'll be happy with it for the adventure I've had so far. Right?
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
What would be the worst thing that they can do, Ronnie?
What is it? Cloud poops his pants.
But wouldn't you kind of like that too?
And he says, "Poopsie whoopsie."
Right. Hang on, I watched that Netflix special.
God.
The middle ditching shorts.
It was, I think it was poopsie doopsie.
That's right. And you're right, that was very funny.
The worst thing they could do is the next chapter of the game is the Roche story.
It's just Roche.
And you'd be disappointed because it wouldn't be that long because we only have like a couple chapters left.
Right, that's right.
I understand. Hey,
I get it.
Thank you to everybody that wrote in, that submitted a comment to patreon.com/MinnMax. 2 Ends. Thanks for sticking with us. We know this is a marathon. As always, number one, we apologize for going off the rails a little bit. But no, specifically, I want to thank everybody, and also any help sharing this with a friend. I think I'm so happy that we're making this gigantic discussion about this game that is going to be incredibly meaningful to me for decades to come. Like, this is a good, timeless chunk of the internet that we're creating here, and it's because of your support on Patreon that the whole thing happened. So thanks to everybody, and if you enjoy it, please help share it with a friend that also loves Final Fantasy VII. Thankfully, I have all my friends on this stream, including nebulous rotating cube orb of Grant over there.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, cube orb. All right. Thanks so much, everybody, and we'll be back next week with everything else in the game. So do all side quests, bonus stuff, anything you want to talk about with this game. Next week is the time, and we'll have a post on patreon.com/MinnMax2Ends. We'll have a post up there on Monday looking for your feedback on everything else in the game. So leave a nice comment for us to unpack. But all right. Thanks so much, everybody. And Jeff, you want to do your classic sign-off?
Awooga!
Bye, everybody!
Bye!
See ya.
MinnMax is a Patreon about games, friends, and getting better. The Deepest Dive is the best, most thorough discussions about games on the internet. Prove us wrong, please. The MinnMax Show podcast airs every Thursday. Patreon supporters vote on what we stream every single week, and a whole lot more. give us a shot, try subscribing to the YouTube channel, and we hope we can win you over.